the dawn is breaking bright. From the shadows we sail through the endless night. Hand to hand we pull the line so tight. Together we rise in the morning light. Oh, a rising tide lifts all ships we land. With joy in our hearts and the wind at our backs. We're building something great, no turning back. Rising tide, we're on the attack. Dedication strong as the oceans roar. Progress calls us to the distant shore. Never surrender, we push evermore. Into the sunrise, what we're fighting for. Oh, a rising tide lifts all ships we land. With joy in our hearts and the wind at our backs. We're building something great, no turning back. Rising tide, we're on the attack. By God, we'll have our memes again. Laughing free under the sun's warm grin. Helping each other, kin to kin. This is our time, and we're gonna win. Oh, rising tide lifts all ships we land. With joy in our hearts and the wind at our backs. We're building something great, no turning back. Rising tide, we're on.
Ahoy everybody, how's it going? Hopefully everyone is doing well. I'm kind of exhausted. I knew I had to keep things going or it would not be good. So here we are. But yeah, I don't know, man. I crashed yesterday and I can tell I got to be real careful to keep stable, or I'm probably not quite as tired as I sound, but yeah, but yeah, hello everybody. But yeah, I knew basically if I didn't stream, because I've been here before, like it'd be easy to just like disappear for like a week or two if I'm not careful. So and that's kind of why I titled it why it is too. Yeah, I'd win. It's just like, nah, you just gotta do it, man. And that's the thing. I don't think I'd be able to sleep anyway. So it's like, I tried to take a nap earlier, couldn't. Whatever. We'll just have to keep going. We'll get back on our like the 4 hour sleep thing or whatever was working. I guess we just have to get back on that and not try to catch up on sleep. Like if we never try to get the full night's sleep, I think we can just keep going, right, guys? That's how it works. Oh. No, no sleep club. Yeah. Yep. But anyway, I just thought it'd be fun. I know there's a bunch of cool community content out there, but I wasn't really in the mood for jumping back and forth between a bunch of short stuff. So we'll be checking out some powering through. Yeah. Ahoy, everybody. But yeah, we'll be powering through. Shit, I must be tired. I'm reading chat there at the same time. Whoopsies. But yeah, so there's a bunch of cool community content we'll catch up on. But not tonight. I didn't feel like jumping through one thing after another. That's a bit more energy investment. So I thought I'd do a more long form thing. Been sleeping like crud. Damn. Yeah, I don't even, like I said, I don't even know what quite happened to me. We were doing it and then had some issues. Laid back night. Yeah. So anyway, I thought it would be fun just because we talk libertarianism sometimes. And this is interesting because it hits both sides. So these are libertarians, but they're ripping apart the Libertarian Party is what it looks like. So yeah, I thought this would be a fun one. I like Tom Woods. He's pretty dang great. He has very interesting guests on. And so yeah, we'll check it out. Hey everybody. Chi, Future Retcon, Noct, Kura, Nor, Miscreant Mule, Nicola, Daishi, Okno. I think I got everybody. How's it going, everybody? But yeah, like I was saying, we'll go ahead and check this out.
Hey everybody, Tom Woods here, episode 2765. Jeremy Kaufman is with
What?
us.
2765?
Send the kids away, lock the doors. I don't even know what any of this means, but you're going to want to listen because Jeremy has recently returned from the Libertarian National Convention. If you think, look, there is nothing on earth I want to know about less than this. Now, hold on a minute. I sympathize, but I love an interesting story as much as anybody. And I love a guy saying things to people.
And if you don't know, Jeremy Kaufman is the New Hampshire Libertarian Party, whatever, Free State Project dude. He does crazy good work.
You need to hear them. Boy, did that happen.
And is giga-based.
Last weekend. Jeremy is what is she, with the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, the chairman of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. And
there we go.
He has created, and I guess is president of the Free State Party, which is something we'll talk about in a little while.
Nice.
And he was a candidate for chair of the Libertarian National Committee. And I want to make clear to everybody, if you hear that and you think, why would anyone in his right mind, even with the best of intentions, want that position?
Oh man, the Libertarian Party is so fucking frustrating, man. And it didn't have to be. It was like I've said before, when people shit on libertarians and get the big L, little L or whatever confused, like even the big L Libertarian Party was like based for like 3 or 4 months or something. It was kind of sad how that fell apart, and they decided to go with the trans the kids, open borders, gay dude or whatever the fuck that was. Libertarian Party needs to be overhauled. Hell yes, it does. Hey Mythic Tone, how you doing? I'm doing all right. Pretty dang tired though.
You must be unfamiliar with Jeremy's platform. So Jeremy, welcome back.
Thanks. It's always fun to be on with you, Tom. And I gave a speech that, as you said in your when we were talking beforehand, you actually showed to your kids. So at least some of my content is is child friendly, and I'm a father, father myself. So my platform for chair was to abolish the Libertarian Party, or at least get it as out of the way as is possible, with my as you can do as the chair. So I went up and I gave a speech but they tried to. They played so many games this whole weekend. The Libertarians online, like you're talking about, we're the party of principle. They're mostly do the same thing.
Oh, yeah. That was another crazy thing. They I forget the exact details, but back when they were doing all those games, like there was some major political backstabbing too. Like the guy who went on to be nominee for president, not that he stood a chance of doing anything, promised like vice president nominee to someone to like throw the vote or whatever. It was crazy.
Republicans do when it comes to
this Penny
politicking, except they're worse at it and more autistic. But
worse and more autistic.
Basically telling them that they've done nothing but fail the entire time. That's all they're going to do. That's all anyone has a plan to do. And it's time to, stop doing this, right? Like there's a reason that the people like Thomas Massie and Rand Paul don't want to call themselves libertarians, right? Because that differentiation, small L versus big L, you and I and your big brained audience, of course, has no problem with that. But to a lot of people, that's confusing. And, it's the Libertarian Party is the reason people don't want to call themselves small L libertarians. So I went up.
Very true. We'll let them keep going, but I did see they link the speech down below, and I also saw in the comments that they never play it in the episode. They said they were going to. So as soon as we've got a nice break point here, I'll actually just go over to the Twitter link and we'll play his speech to the Libertarian Party and see just what he was cooking with.
I told all this to their faces, and the response was, basically to steal our property and ultimately kick us out of convention. But it's a killer speech.
Wait, steal their property? What the heck? All right, anyway, let's go right over to okay, let's see. Can we make this bigger? I need to get a specific setup so I can play it without just zooming in like this, but this will do for now. Speech to the Libertarian Party National Convention by Jeremy Kaufman. Libertarian Party has become detrimental to the cause of liberty. Oof.
Jeremy never shies away from straightforward thinking, visionary action, and you can look at his history in business. You can look at his history with his family. He is a very successful man, and I hope that you will all respect
Hey,
him,
Grumpy.
listen to what he has to say and the recommendations that he has to make today.
Yeah, I wish I could sleep. Right now, it's just not really working.
The Libertarian Party and how, as chair, he would make that happen. Thank you.
I just want to see what were the signs in the audience, if we can make it out. Can't really make anything out.
Hello, everybody. I wanted to start by saying thank you to the man most responsible for me being in the Libertarian Party. Could we give a hand to Nick Sarwark, who recruited me? Thank you, Nick, for getting me here on stage. Nick deserves a lot.
Thank you,
of
thank
credit.
you.
Nick and I used to share an office together, and I got to see
Hey, Luth, and hey, Digger.
how he thinks and operates. And it was a different kind of
Hey,
libertarian
Depthwalker. Yeah, right?
than we generally saw in New Hampshire. And so, as Rachel said, I am here to tell the truth. I'm not here to be nice. And there are hard truths that libertarians need to hear, which is in 55 years, you have never won at anything.
Holy shit.
You have never won a single competitive head-to-head race against a Republican or Democrat. Not once in 55 years. And so you exist to burn millions of dollars, tens of thousands of hours, hundreds of thousands of hours of the time of people,
This is brutal.
selling them false hope. And I'm urging you to wake up. The definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect different results. You've been doing it for 55 years. People here, every other officer, every other person running for this position is saying the same stuff.
Talking too quiet. We can boost it.
We're gonna raise money.
Oh, wow.
Bring
It's
back
really...
Project Archimedes. We need to do it back in like we did it back in my day.
Thank you.
I used to have 100 people, and we're going to do it again. Are you guys stupid? Genuinely. Like, are you dumb? Because the libertarians in New Hampshire are not dumb. We win all the time. We have a strategy that works. We know how to be team players.
You're a Republican.
Thank you, Nick. So, I'll tell you my history. And my history is nothing but success. I've been a leader my entire life. You guys will like this one, all the way back to when I was 16 years old and ran an 800-person guild in an MMO. Everything
Based.
I've done. I took my college ultimate frisbee team to nationals for the first time. I built a successful business, bootstrapped it myself, grew it to millions of dollars in recurring revenue, and sold it to private equity. I made the service that today, someone came up to me just yesterday and said, thank you. The technology that you made is still the #1 way of keeping 3D gun files online today. And I go to the mat every day, all of the time, for what's right and what's true.
Nice.
And you guys, you freaks, see someone who can do things that you can't, and it makes you so angry and so bitter.
Hey, Mad
You
Hatter.
are loser apes
This
who
is
can't stand to see
brutal.
someone with abilities that you don't have. And nothing successful can be built with people with this psychology and this attitude. So, if you want to be successful, I'll tell you how you can do it. I don't really expect to win, so I don't think I'm going to be the guy to do it, although I do think you should cast at least one protest vote for me. But success would be doing what LPNH does. Stop telling people that you're going to win the next election and burning them out. Set reasonable goals that you can actually achieve them, and grow. If I needed 100 armed men to show up at any specific spot in New Hampshire tomorrow, I could do it. maybe a couple hundred. Yeah, but we had 100 people at our convention. I'm talking to other people in other states. They had 40 people, they had 50 people. Why do we have 100 people in New Hampshire, a state of 1.5 million people who want to come out? New Hampshire has the largest. I would like the sergeant at arms to remove this communist. We have a communist infiltrator here who can't keep his mouth shut.
Dude, it's the Libertarian Party. Of course, there are a bunch of communists there, which is one of the most frustrating parts.
Who can't follow the rules. You guys get so angry at our success. There are some communists who stole our sign last night, and they're going around bragging about it. I stand up for my rights against the cop, and all of a sudden the leftist freaks who say all cops are bastards are on the side of the police. So you guys can't handle it.
Hey, Pedro.
You are so congenitally anti-everything that when you see someone with something who can do anything, you melt down. And I am here to cleanse the party of you losers. You will no longer...
Hey there, Delta. How's it going? See you later, Penny. No need to apologize. Have a good sleep. Purpose of the Libertarian Party should be to threaten the Republicans into doing what we actually want. A vote is only worth what it takes to earn it. Yeah, they could definitely be playing the game a whole lot better. Instead, there is the whole autistic nonsense going on there.
Have control over the name libertarian. We will bring it back to the place of truth and justice and all that is right and good. Okay?
Nice.
I've been the best representative of libertarianism in the country over the last several years because I represent a strategy that works and continues to work. The LNC, on the other hand, has become controlled by bureaucrats who are more interested in maintaining their own power over a petty little organization.
Worse than that, I think.
$3 million? I'd raise $3 million in 2 weeks. Okay? Do you understand? Do you understand how pathetic the state of this organization is? Do you have theater kids with 110 IQs who couldn't succeed at anything else in their lives and are here because this is the only place?
Hey, Dan, we're watching Jeremy Kauffman's speech to the Libertarian Party. And yeah, I saw the Runway's unlimited cancellation. We've still got 3 months, but that is some freaking bullshit.
They could be. You are here because this is the only place you could be. A lot of you. Because no decent organization would take you. So I'm here to offer a solution for those of you who are worthy. It's probably only around, when I came here, we were talking about it. We said, how many do you think it is? A third, a quarter? Honestly, after this convention, it might be a tenth. But there are some of you who are good, who are fit, who are honest, who can cooperate, who want to win, who will do what it takes. You belong in New Hampshire, where we will create a libertarian nation. The rest of you
Holy shit.
can be screaming at the gates as the socialists eat you alive.
Damn. Damn.
Should I be elected chair? I can't actually end the Libertarian Party as chair, but I will get it out of the way to the best of my ability.
Damn. Dude cooked him. And yeah, Runway is doing away with the unlimited. August 31st, I believe.
I wonder if I should play it. You think I should? I mean, how long is it?
It's like 7 minutes or 8 minutes.
All right. What I think I'll do is for anybody who might not want to listen to it, I'll append it to the end of this episode. So
And again, I saw in comments he didn't,
when you
so
hear the closing music or whatever. I don't know what happens at the end of the episode. Actually, something happens. Whenever that happens, don't run away because we're going to play Jeremy's speech for you at the end. Let me tell you my whole thing with the Libertarian Party. Now, I've been around a while. I've done an awful lot of public speaking. I've spoken to so many groups in so many parts of the country. And Dave Smith will give the same kind of story, that we would speak everywhere to every organization, large and small. And everywhere we went, we got favorable, friendly audiences, big cheers, people wanting to shake our hands, get books signed, pictures taken. I mean, it's been an amazing life I've had going around meeting a lot of these people. But on the occasional, when occasionally I would go to an LP event, it was very different from these other ones. I mean, I had many people also there who were very friendly and favorable. But with all these other organizations, I would see a lot of the same people, and that's how I made a lot of friendships. Oh, you're at this event, you're at this event, you're at this event. Or I would know like all the scholars or all the activists. But then I'd go to the LP. I don't know who the hell any of these people are. And they would all be giving each other awards and stuff. And I never heard of any of them. That doesn't mean just because I haven't heard of somebody that they're of no value. But I always thought it was odd that it was like the LP was in its
All
own.
right, catch you later, Iraqi. Have a good rest.
That is almost like it wasn't interacting with the rest of them. I didn't know any of these people. And I'd been everywhere. I'd traveled all over the place and been everywhere. And then I got to the point in 2018 where I decided I'm going to give this thing a shot, because what I sympathized with was that, yeah, these are the kind of people who, for all their faults, would stand out there collecting signatures in the rain, would devote themselves to something they really believed in. And I thought, well, maybe for being so principled, I should help them. They deserve some help.
Oh, they're not going to be very accepting to it, I'm guessing. Like when you like, I can already tell where that's going. Like, yeah, I'll think I'll help him. I'll reach out a hand. Hey, Cody. Hey, DJ. How's it going?
I don't know that strategically that's the best approach at this point. But even if conditions were ideal, I'm not sure that's the best approach. But conditions are not ideal. There is something about the Libertarian Party in particular that is not present in not just groups like Young Americans for Liberty or some of the Mises Institute or whatever, but like even the Cato Institute isn't quite as retarded as the Libertarian Party. I can find some people at the Cato Institute for Foreign Policy who do really good work, and I can appreciate them, and they come on my show and whatever. But there's something.
Hey, Bapella.
I don't know. I mean, do you know what I'm talking about? Like this, it's like the Libertarian Party is somehow out there, and everybody else is over here, and I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah. You're describing an entirely correct phenomenon. I don't think it was always this way. I think it's gotten worse. When we were headed out there from New Hampshire, and everyone in our delegation, we had a delegation of 14 people, plus we had some extras who were there for, to support freeing some of the crypto prisoners. So we had more than 15 people. I think we had like 16 or 17. And we were talking on the way, how many people here do you think we would actually want in New Hampshire? And I was like, maybe a third. After being there, I'm like, maybe a 10th. Like it's the Free Staters, the people I've seen come to New Hampshire and be successful, they have their lives together. They're decent people.
Yeah. And it's more of a commitment too. Like if you're moving to a different state, it's more of a commitment there too. Like these are the people willing to pull the trigger on this. And a bunch of the, as we kind of saw when he was talking to them, a bunch of the LP people are retarded theater kids. Like that is correct. There's a lot of like you said, like giving themselves awards and just general back patting while they don't really do much. It's a very leftist ideology, the LP stuff specifically, not all libertarians, but it's a like sort of leftist perspective where it's becomes an identity. Like they are big L libertarians. That's their identity, and that's no way to actually go about doing anything, because you get so attached to that you don't actually do the things. And as I've been saying, you got to do the things. Hey, Jessica. But yeah, you got to do the things. They don't want to do the things. They want to be the thing.
They're on track to have a family. They can cooperate with others and be a team player, and the Libertarian Party seems to have become this collection of people who are attracted to libertarianism because they see it as a political philosophy of no judgment is sort of the way that I've come to think of, like, that's what it's selected for. And so you have all these people who are, they're homosexuals, and their top, priority is to like legalize.
Dude, I love the word homosexual. It sounds in some ways more insulting than gay when used correctly. And I want to be clear, I'm not insulting all gays or homosexuals. I'm just saying it's fucking funny.
you know, they're homosexuals and their top, you know, priority is to like legalize, you know, polyamorous legal situations, or you know, they want to make sure they want to legalize hard drugs, and you know, and I'm not saying that these are that these are therefore not libertarian positions, but what you've selected for people who are into libertarianism because they want to lead alternative lifestyles. They want to lead lifestyles that I would consider to be, you know, somewhat degenerate or whatever.
Hey, Chaos.
And that's why they're libertarians. They're not there for, you know, free market economics or libertarianism as a legal and political theory that can solve more people's problems and result in a society with less conflict. You know, they're
Like specific pet projects as a big, I forget the name for it, but as your main thing, you're like a one issue, single issue voter or something like that. That's fine, but like it's no way to run a party, especially a like putting a bunch of diverse, different single issue voters together in that way. Like you have to, if you're going to be a serious political party, which they don't seem to want to be, but if you're going to be a serious political party, you have to have a at least somewhat cohesive vision for the nation. Like if you're operating allegedly at that national level, like if you're putting forth people to pretend that they can become president, you have to have something beyond we're going to be mega gay and trans the kids. Like that's the Democrats. We already have a party and they can actually win. So if you like that shit, vote Democrats. Oh man. They want to legalize all degeneracy in a perfect lame and gay world for the Quangos. Yes, many of them. Again, there's a bunch of them are just leftist communists. Yeah, could we maybe take a look at the Patriot Act before legalizing crack? Yeah. Order of operations is important too here. Like, we can have the discussion about whether drugs should be legalized or not. I used to lean more towards yes, because again, like prohibition doesn't exactly work, but it's the same thing we always come across. The government can't be fucking trusted. Like, we've seen what happens when the states legalize the drugs. They end up pushing them to people. Like, it's so stupid. Like, again, on a purely ideological libertarian perspective, I'm in favor of legalizing the drugs. When it actually comes down to how it operates in real life, it's a fucking disaster. Like, I don't like the over criminalization and throwing people in jail for it either. But man, legalizing drugs is a fucking disaster because the people who get in charge of all that shit are insane. Like, maybe in a sane society, drugs could be legal or whatever, or at least decriminalized, and it wouldn't be a big issue. But with how things are currently operating, the people who want to legalize the drugs also then end up like pushing them on people and not policing their use in public and stuff. And then you get like public drug use, free drugs handed out everywhere. It's a disaster. And that's how cities go to shit. Like, I mean, they go to shit in many different ways, but that doesn't help.
there because of their lifestyle. And you can see this with the chair of the party that was recently elected, who has been convicted of burglaries.
Oh,
He
good.
ran a pornography
Oh,
company.
I was about to say there better not be kid stuff involved, but I mean, there's porn stuff involved. Wow. Oof. Oh my God. Burglary and porn. Jeez.
Of the party that was recently elected, who has been
Why?
convicted of burglaries.
Yeah, I was worried it was going to be
ran
worse,
a
but this is still not
pornography
good.
company, And all of his social media is, you know, stuff about sex and pornography and drugs. And this is who they chose to
Like I
elect
said,
as.
not a serious
And wasn't he one
organization.
Of these stay home and save lives people
Yeah,
during
he was
COVID?
also
Oh.
awful on.
Oh, yeah. Anyone who fails the COVID test, not that COVID test, but the test of how they handled COVID, should not be a libertarian, because that's one of the big ones. Come on.
COVID.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
yeah,
that's incredible to me that you could have gotten that one wrong.
Yep.
How do you get that wrong?
yeah.
All the evidence is staring you in the face, but
Well, so it's there, and this is. I think this is a left, you know, right kind of thing. I think part of the reason the right was better on COVID is the right, like, the more left wing you get, the more you're concerned about the weak, you know, and the oppressed.
Yeah,
And you look
true.
for any tool you can to say
Uh,
those who are.
I don't think it's an actual genuine care for weak and oppressed. I mean, somewhat, some of them, sure. It's more about the equality thing. Like it's not that they're weak and oppressed. It's that they view them as unequal, and they're big proponents in equality across the board, which obviously does not work. I'm not in favor of equality. There are so many things the government is doing that are wildly unpopular. Could we maybe work on that first? Need a populist approach to libertarianism? Yeah, yep, 100%.
Successful and capable are wrong and bad. And
You never saw COVID as being politically charged thing. It was propagandized to get vaccinated or put your family in danger. It wasn't exactly politically charged, but the way it broke down was unpopular and bipartisan. Oh, the worst government actions are bipartisan generally. But yeah, so COVID wasn't necessarily politically charged, but how the reactions broke down absolutely was. Like, if you're more individualist and conservative, you're going to be a little bit more rebellious on that. You're not going to be in favor of that crackdown. And if you're more leftist and, for lack of a better word, empathetic, and more in line with the idea that the government is the one that gets to control everything, you're going to be much more in favor of, the stay at home, wear the masks, all that sort of stuff. So you are correct that it wasn't necessarily political, but the conflict was absolutely along political lines, not purely, but very much so. What did you come into? We're just talking libertarianism, small L versus big L. Like, I just thought this would be fun because it's a libertarian ripping apart the Libertarian Institute. Not Libertarian Institute, Libertarian Party. You think Tim Pool is correct on this? The Libertarian Party is a group of people who just want to legalize their favored form of degenerate illegal behavior. Yeah, yep. Many such cases. COVID was weird, man. Yes, it was. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we were talking about just there. It is a bunch of degenerates, not exclusively, but there are a bunch. Yeah. He was the one who gave the speech. COVID was about control and keeping the public in line, and as those people who are paying attention, say the largest wealth transfer in human history. Like, what happened during COVID was insane, and we lost a bunch of small businesses, and the corporations were in positions to scoop everything up, as well as just had the connections where they could actually benefit from it in many cases. So yeah, there was a lot of fucked up shit there. L's fighting L's. Again, the Libertarian Party are not libertarians. They're degenerate communists. You were a small L libertarian years ago. The party repelled me. Yes, many such cases. Hey, Rudy.
That those who are successful and capable are wrong and bad.
Yep.
And
again, hierarchy.
A left libertarian might still, not say, oh, we should send armed men around to take their stuff, but they'd still say, that the people who are like Elon Musk is a bad guy, and there can be right-wing libertarian criticisms of Musk too. I'm not saying he's the, but like, to me, he's clearly a positive force. You talk to the left libertarians, they're filled with bitterness. And so there's so much bitterness and envy. A lot of these people are so bitter and so envy. And also because of their psychology, they can't get anything done. They're constantly turning on each other because as soon as someone starts to ascend to be a leader, there's no working in groups of people without leaders. There's no getting things done without some amount of hierarchy. And they are against everything.
You voted Libertarian back when it was Obama versus Romney. I mean, that's fair. I forget who the Libertarian was at the time, but yeah, no. And like, again, I'm kind of mixed on it, like, because currently the Republicans are definitely better than the Democrats. How much better is open to debate, but I was very hesitant with the whole not supporting the Republicans, but it all depends on Aleppo man, Gary Johnson, right? Oh my God, he was a bit of a clown, but Yep. Sometimes you gotta make your voice heard in that way too. Like, it's a throwaway vote. He's not gonna be the president, but you can still say, hey, fuck both these guys, and I'm voting third party, and that's might be what I end up doing. We will see where it goes from there. I know that's not exactly a popular opinion, but depending on who. I'll vote in smaller elections and stuff like that, and state elections probably, but depending on who the candidate is, like if it's Marco Rubio or JD Vance or something like that, I'm probably not going to want to support that. Republicans seem more common sense to you. Yes, but they're still destroying the country, just slower. That's my issue with them. But yeah, no, I like that we're getting more independence, and I hope more people do vote third party. Just because that gives you that extra, kind of like we were talking about earlier, with that the Libertarian Party should be a force that can pressure another party, like the Republicans in this case, to get on board and adopt some of their positions. Like, that's how a third party should be acting, and so we need to prove that independents and third party voters are a big enough issue that we need to be brought back into the system by them appealing to us. Like, we need to prove that they need us to win, basically. So yeah, it's not about, oh no, we're not going to support the Republicans and vote Democrat or something like that. Like, that's stupid. But if you're saying, hey, we actually do have a important voice here, and we are big enough that if you can get us on board, it will actually benefit your party, that gives us more political power, even if we throw away votes in the meantime. So yeah, I think the midterms are already kind of doomed. I think that's probably a good time to do third party. This is not, this is just what my own thought process. I'm not saying anyone else should do that, but like, that might be what I do. And again, I might do it again in 28, depending on who the Republican candidate for president is. Like, if it's someone I just can't support, I'm not voting Democrat either. But we need a Chud party. Heck yeah. We need to get more parties than just the Dems and Reps. Yeah, unfortunately, we're not currently in position, but like I said, we can at least start that wedge process. Keystone Party wedged holding up the two sides of the arch. Yes. Democrats kind of screw themselves. I have to see if Elon Musk follows through with creating a new Democrat party. That would be hilarious. But yeah, we do need some big name people getting behind stuff as well. Anyone who brings back asylums. Two parties are just not enough. Keen 2028. Oh God, don't put that evil on me. For one thing, I can't win yet. Maybe down the line. No, that'd be wild though. Imagine the first VTuber president. I'm not saying it would be me, but would be funny. Someone should. Come on. Oh man, can you imagine the absolute seething if it was like the first woman president was like Kirsha or something like that? Kirsha or Leaflet. Powder. Oh my God, Powder for president. Holy shit. Oh, they'd lose their fucking mind. Silas for president, Keen for VP. All right. Sold. Oh man, that would be fun. Where was I? I got distracted. Oh, just that Munya for president. Just that yeah, I think more third party voters is a good thing. Because I don't think the current system on either side is working. El Presidente Silas, yes.
And so they constantly, are tearing each other apart. And this is also the same psychology that's leading them to, attack the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, which is something we can talk.
Yeah, indeed, let's talk about that. But I am curious about. Do you have a good relationship with Jim Ostrowski?
So I was actually just texting with Jim before I hopped on this, and we're supposed to get on the phone to talk. It hasn't happened yet. I thought Jim was, the most reasonable candidate.
Worse for president? Heck yeah.
Close. I still don't think Jim has, a real plan. In my opinion, Jim is like just one of these. Jim comes from an era. Jim's been in the Libertarian Party for a long time. And I think when he first got involved, it was a better organization that had more decent people there. Like, Jim is the kind of person I would want in New Hampshire. He seems like a decent and good man. Nothing like the chair that was selected.
Yeah, because I mean, it was obvious
Nice.
in his background.
Oh,
his
dude, that
professional
would be
background.
fun. Like, just build. Oh my god, like we were talking about first VTuber president, but I like what you guys are doing. Like, a Speaker of the House and Department of Education. Oh my god, yeah. Like, we could just build a whole. Oh my, ooh, dude, that could even be a video right there, or something like a fictional. Ooh, like the West Wing with VTubers, but a little bit more comedic. Yes. Oh, like an absurd satire with all the based VTubers as an entire administration. Yep. West Wing VTubers, heck yeah. That would let's go. Yep. Oh man.
The way he presents himself, that if you were going to keep this institution going on, so therefore you wouldn't vote for Jeremy Kaufman. You obviously vote for Jim. I mean, why would it even occur to you to vote for the other guy? I guess we know the answer.
Yeah.
But it just goes to show. I mean, every organization would have voted for Jim. Like anybody with with any shred of professionalism whatsoever. And you don't have to worry about him ideologically. It's not like, well, he's professional, but he's going to sell you out. I mean, Jim believes the whole package. You don't have to worry about that. So when I saw the final result, I thought, oh, well, okay, maybe Jim will win. Nope. Nope. Let's find the worst possible. All right. So tell me about the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire and what it means to be disaffiliated.
I wonder how the Libertarian Party got so fucking cucked. Because, like I said, I mean, they always were to some extent, but it's wild when you think about that. Dave Smith, like, could have won. Again, criticism where it's due. He kind of fucked him up pretty bad there. Like, he said he was going to run for president and everything, then kind of pulled out, and it left a power vacuum there. So yeah, we had a base Libertarian Party for a little tiny bit, and then they just went back to their old degenerate ways. But yeah, I don't know how it all, like, I don't know how you get them, the group as a whole, seeming to support Dave Smith, and then doing the whole gay race communism, but third party gay race communism. It's wild.
And what happens next?
Yeah. So the first act of this new LNC, they put it at the top of the agenda. And this is an organization that I believe they're losing something like $50,000 a month. No success. The first meeting, they spend all their time basically focused on us in New Hampshire. And they did vote in a non-legal way, but they did vote to disaffiliate us. And so they're, I guess, planning to spend.
That's their first order of business, is to kick out the actual libertarians. All right, that checks out.
A couple of years and yet another protracted lawsuit. So we put together a website, savelpnh.com, with more details about the case. We're collecting endorsements for the party.
Take over Canada. Like I said, we can take over Canada, but they can only be a territory. Like, they don't get to vote on the United States president. They can be like a protectorate or something like that, but they don't get to choose our guy. Not that it makes that much of a difference considering how retarded all our guys are, but still, it's the principle of the things. Canadians don't get to vote in the United States elections.
Online through x.com, and we've gotten, I think, more than 500 or 600 already, and that's just in the last 12 hours. And we've raised, I think, something like $3 grand, $4 grand so far. That's just in the last 12 hours. And I didn't know this was coming. So I'll tell you, I got 3 hours of sleep on
Been there
Sunday into Monday, got on my flight, went home, hugged my kids, and I hadn't seen my kids in several days. And we went out to a barbecue and we're having a nice time. And I get a text message that's like, hey, they're about to vote to disaffiliate you in 10 minutes. So we had no warning that it was coming. We had no chance to submit evidence or make any arguments. They just said, they banged the gavel, new meeting, first order, disaffiliate New Hampshire. The only evidence submitted was that in 2024, a different executive committee endorsed Donald Trump for president, but that was a completely different leadership team. I didn't vote for that, nor did any of the current executive committee vote for that. So it's not really about that. It's what it is they're left wingers, and we're willing to say things in New Hampshire like, yeah, maybe low IQ Haitian immigration isn't beneficial to the cause of freedom.
Oh no.
Yeah, you're being kind of weird. Don't do that around kids.
Yeah.
These are the kinds of things that if you're a left-wing libertarian, you can't stand hearing. And so we've got to go.
Hey, gang, you know what? Your school board met last Tuesday. You know what they decided? Your city council met too. So did your county commission. They spent money, changed rules, made decisions, and unless you were sitting in the room, you probably have no idea what happened. The local
Right.
newspapers that used to keep an eye on these people are mostly gone. So what's
No,
left
it's
is a transparency gap, and that gap
it really is
benefits the
crazy.
people inside the room,
Like
not
you
the rest
can
of us.
just say things.
That's
You can
why I
just
like
do
Citizen
things.
Portal.
And
Citizen Portal makes every word spoken by
obviously
elected officials
there are things that are
words
going on that are not
They've
beneficial
indexed and
to the
transcribed more
country,
than
and who
1
cares if it's
million
rude
hours
pointing
of
it out.
government meetings. You search by topic, name, or keyword, and it shows you exactly what was said, when it was said, and who said it. And this is important. It's not somebody's summary. It's not spin. It's not an editorial. Every result links directly to the original video, so you can see the tape for yourself. The AI here isn't telling you what to think.
There are so
It's
many
transcribing and
there are so
indexing
many
directly
buttons we
to
could be
the
pressing,
final
but no one
receipts.
gives a
It
shit.
was founded by the co-founder of Ancestry.com.
So we'll just have to do it ourselves.
Somebody who spent his career helping people find records they were told were impossible to locate. This is for people who were tired of feeling powerless. Now you have what they
Yeah, no,
want,
it's
information,
really frustrating. Like the
sources,
politicians
and the ability to
promise
hold
they'll
people
press all these
accountable.
buttons. Well, a bunch of them they don't even talk about.
They've been
A
given
bunch of them they don't even
50
talk about.
lifetime
Dude, you remember when Trump was running and when he was president for a while, he was talking about doing away with income tax. Whatever happened to that, man? Like at least he brought it up, but holy shit. Like press some of the buttons. Come on. At least talk about the buttons from time to time to let people know they're there so we can demand that they press the buttons. Please press the buttons.
memberships for my listeners at $99, half the regular price of $199. Once they're gone, they're gone. Use code WOODS50 at citizenportal.ai/woods. That's code WOODS50 at citizenportal.ai/woods.
Damn.
Let me try.
Okay. Remember, folks, in the U.S. and Canada, an IQ below 70 qualifies you for Social Security because the government thinks you lack the necessary intellect necessary to hold a job. I'd have to look into that. I'm not sure that's true. I don't know if there are any specific IQ test related things, like because often IQ isn't directly referenced in legal stuff, but let's say for the sake of argument that's true. We need to cut that shit out. It's like we were talking about the left versus right thing. The left cares way too much about equality. And again, not in the good way, not the good sort of equality, equal rights or whatever, but like actual, like trying to equalize everything and helping the weak and all that. It's not good for society. Like we need, I'm not opposed to stopgaps. Like if someone loses their job, they should get some level of unemployment, especially if the government keeps taking shit from their paychecks allegedly for that purpose. So yeah, they've paid into the system. Give them a safety net. That's fine. Permanent welfare, and especially to non-Americans or because they're stupid or something like that. That's not how it's supposed to work, man. That's not how it's supposed to work, and it's terrible for society. Like you can't make the strong support the weak just because they're weak. And like I said, especially if you're importing those weak people to then force them to be supported. It's not good for anyone. Definitely not good for society. Before income tax, the government made money through tariffs, but everyone threw a shit fit when he started imposing tariffs. Yeah, which is especially stupid because everyone else was already tariffing. Like, you can say the tariffs were badly handled or something like that, and in some cases they were. And Trump is very chaotic, so it was pissing people off that probably we didn't need to piss off. Like, whatever, fuck them. But still, it wasn't handled correctly. But the outrage over tariffs is also insane, because it's like, he was correct that we are getting like ripped off. Like, he helped some of it in his first term. He helped balance some of that already, but we're still getting massively taken advantage of. So the idea that we can't tariff other countries is pretty freaking stupid, especially with and you'd think the environmentalists would support that, like, because the tariffs equalize things, so you end up sending less slave labor over to China. You end up spending less, in theory, on like shipping costs and stuff. Like, if you're tariffing things coming in from outside the country, you're going to be making more stuff inside the country, and you spend a lot less global resources on massive shipping, massive cargo ships going every which way, and the globalization of culture. But they actually like the globalization, so it doesn't matter that they're massive hypocrites. They don't give a shit. And it's actually a threat if you do away with that. Replace income tax with tariffs. Instead, we just get tariffs with no tax relief to compensate. Yes, numbers go up, though. It's Congress limiting it. It's everyone limiting it. No one wants to press the button. It's not just Congress. He isn't going after the rhinos. He's embracing the rhinos. I know a lot of people don't like to hear this. All the people that they're calling core MAGA now, like at the top level, were never Trumpers. Never Trumpers took over the MAGA movement. So yeah, he's not only not going after rhinos, he's embracing and supporting them against actual MAGA candidates. Equality is lame and gay. Yep. First worst tax was on booze. Yeah, I don't like those sorts of taxes, because it's not what taxes are for. I don't even smoke, and the idea that like you've got $20 worth of tax on like a $3 carton of cigarettes or whatever pisses me the fuck off. Like, just on principle alone, that's absolutely insane. I don't like the penalty taxes. The lifestyle taxes, we're going to try to shape shit. It's the same BlackRock shit. It's the Larry Fink shit of we're going to put our finger on the scale and change human behavior. Fuck that. Exactly, Dark. Yep, that's what I was saying. Other countries terrify us. You want the income tax and property tax completely gone and outlawed? Yes. You can deal with sales tax and tariffs because they don't treat me as property. Yeah, the other issue is sales taxes are somewhat voluntary, especially on like larger stuff. So as much as it's a lefty thing, like you could even make the argument for like luxury tax or something. Like, you could massively shrink the government and fund a lot of it with like rich people buying yachts or something. Like, put a massive tax on, and that's just an extreme example, but put a massive tax on like really expensive versions of things that no one actually needs. Make them pay a little bit more for that, and fund things from there. Like, that's how you tax the rich. It's just not, instead of progressive income tax, just do progressive sales tax. A little bit of progressive sales tax. I think that's fine if we're taxing anyone. Tax the very optional things, because that's the thing. Income isn't optional. Sales tax, the higher you go on the value of items, is very optional. So that's why I have less issue with that. And property tax is an abomination. Like the Thomas Massey primary, that was a fucking joke, man.
For fun, say what kind of thing they would say. You said at the convention that the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire is the most successful state affiliate of the Libertarian Party by a considerable margin, and you said the national
property taxes you don't mind to a point. You shouldn't have to continue paying taxes once your house is paid off. Well, that's not really a tax. Are you talking like, are you now talking an additional tax on loans? Like if you're paying down your house, you're also paying taxes to the government to have the honor of paying the bank? Because I don't like that anyway. But yes, I'd have much less of an issue if once you actually owned your house, you owned your house. But that's the problem with property tax right there. Boomers got duped about Thomas Massey. Yeah. But yeah, no, you shouldn't have to pay taxes on a house you own.
The Libertarian Party has just failed and failed and failed, but we just keep winning and winning and winning. And what they would say is, well, it depends on how you define winning. It just means that you cheer.
There is a recent case where they found that distillation for personal use wasn't illegal. Paying attention to this as it develops. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah, no, I like home distillation. It's very interesting. I've thought about getting into it. Done some home brewing, not home distillation. But yeah, you can. It's technically illegal, but you can do it fairly easily because there are kits for like distilling essential oils and stuff like that, allegedly. So you can get a small home still fairly easily. The government, I think, will know you have it, so you do have to be a little careful there, but they're not going to come after you for it, generally speaking. This is not financial, legal, or medical or anything like that advice. But yes, you can do it, but that'd be very cool if it actually became legal. And it sounds like it's overturning the law, not instituting a new law, which is even better, because if they're instituting a new law, like I said, the government always fucks shit up. It'd be heavily taxed and stuff. If the ruling is just that it's legal, I don't think there's going to be additional taxes on that. Like you can just then buy those distilling kits and do it legally this time, though. Feed corn is pretty available from feed stores. Yeah. Yes. There are bad incentives on the on the property taxes too.
For Republicans, but we're not Republicans. We're libertarians. What do you say to that?
Well, we have the highest.
What was the question?
And winning and winning. And what they would say is, well, it depends on how you define winning. It just means that you cheer for Republicans, but we're not Republicans. We're libertarians. What do you say to that?
Well, we have the highest membership per capita of any state in the country by more than 10%. So if the goal is to get people into the Libertarian Party, we're better at that than any other state. We have more in-state membership, again, per capita than any other state. We generate more earned media under the Libertarian Party banner than any other state. We get more attention for the Libertarian Party on social media than any other state.
He's not wrong.
No one wins elections, Tom. So, complaining that LPNH doesn't win elections, one of the facts I gave in my speech, and this is a shocking one, not once, not a single time has the Libertarian Party won a head-to-head race against a Republican and a Democrat for statewide or federal office. Not a single time in 55 years. It's never happened. Every time a Libertarian was in statewide office, it was a situation like Amash, where they switch parties. Or there are a couple of times, like in Wyoming, when a Republican didn't run, and so they were able to get a Libertarian on in a red district, and people would vote for the Libertarian because he was better than the Democrat.
Gotcha.
Those are the only times a Libertarian has won state or federal office, at least according to my research. And no one has been able. I posted on X. No one's ever given me a contradictory example. So, and also in terms of winning elections, yeah, I know this isn't technically under the Libertarian Party, but literally every single year that I've been here, a member of our executive committee has dropped off of the committee, become a Republican, run for election for the state house, and won. We have more than 8. I'm trying to get an exact head count, but I believe we have 8 or more.
That's based.
Lifetime members or former executive committee members who are now in the state house. They didn't change who they are.
Yep.
And this is also a weird standard because Libertarian, almost every Libertarian wants to talk positively about people like Thomas Massey and Ron Paul and, Amash and Rand Paul. And all these people were elected as Republicans. So are we not supposed to be talking positively about these people when this happens? Well, we have all these people in New Hampshire. We have dozens of people who are more, who are comparable to Ron Paul and their libertarianism. And in my opinion, a lot of them are better. So no, and that's not trashing Ron. I like Ron, but like we've got some great people here. Who cares how they're winning?
What else do we want to talk about? I got a list. So
Yeah.
okay, so that's a good enough answer.
That
Some
is
people-
based.
But
Yeah.
some people will say that the messaging coming out of the LP New Hampshire, which is primarily on X, let's face it, that's really the where everybody sees it, is too abrasive. It's not, not everybody is. I'm steel manning the argument. This isn't how they would phrase it. Not everybody is exactly ready to hear the kinds of arguments you're making. You're not easing them into the argument. It's a sledgehammer. Not everybody's ready for the sledgehammer, and it just turns them off.
So,
But then you can say, yeah, but the numbers don't lie. We are the most successful affiliate.
yeah, I mean,
And what I will say there too is like you don't have to ease everyone in if you already have other organizations easing people in. Like you can have various levels and people will come find that when you're ready. Like it's hard to like ease people in. Like just freaking go for it. Common sense. Good luck there, Dark. Good luck.
I think you can take this one from both sides, Tom. I'm just gonna let you just run at it. And you take care of it from both sides. So one of the I appreciate you asking that question. It is a fair question. One of the things that annoys me about this is that not a single person who dislikes us is capable of even having a conversation with us. Capable of confronting us in
I
any
feel
kind of
that.
public manner. Like they didn't mount any evidence. Like this wasn't raised. Literally the only cited event that happened was the endorsement of Trump. So if they want to litigate our social media posts, if the position of the Libertarian National Party is now that they are the king of every state affiliate social media, then they should say that and they should set guidelines. That's against the current rules. The rules are designed to allow states to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
It's designed to allow states autonomy, and that's the explicit design. Now, in terms of why we do what we want to do, I do agree.
Well,
that it
'cause-
turns off some people.
Because libertarianism, I do love them saying the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire can't do certain things while they're pushing all the gay shit. Okay, sure.
The thing is, it's incredibly attractive to a lot of people because we're saying things that very few other people, very few other libertarians are even willing to say. And we're having a good time doing it and we're winning.
Yep.
And so I maybe talked about this in one of my speeches or during the debate. I actually don't recall, and it doesn't matter. So I'll talk about it now. The stupid thing that Libertarian Party people do is they think that the path from 1% to 50% is to go right to the normies. That we're at 1% and we just have to say we're gonna jump from 1% to 40% in one election cycle.
No.
With the right campaign with the right messaging.
Nope.
And that's never how success happens. Okay, I've grown a lot of things from nothing to being very large, and the way that success always happens is you start with the craziest people. Okay, the types of people who are using library, who are the first, 200, 500,000 people using library, were high IQ weirdos in a positive sense. All right, in a positive sense, they're high IQ weirdos. All right, because these are the kinds of people who go first, and then you go down until you get all the way down to something that's pretty normal, where the average person using Odyssey was not the same type of person who's in the early stages. And so if you want to succeed from 1% to 40%, you've got to be attracting at the margin who you can attract and who you can keep around and who is going to want to be part of this thing over time.
Yeah. So in response to like the idea that he should be attracting the normies, that doesn't work because you have to dull down your message way too much at that point. Like it's better to build based on the original message, reaching who you can, like he's talking about. You reach who you can, keep building until you become cool and the normies come to you and change their opinions to match because they're freaking normies. Like you don't appeal to the normies, you become badass and the normies will flock to you eventually.
And so if there were a path to the
Which-
Libertarian Party winning election,
which is both good and bad, because like I've said, it's normies are normies and they're dangerous. I'm more concerned about the far left trying to infiltrate and subvert more in the context of the AI, like we've talked about. But yeah, you do have to be careful when you're appealing to people that are not at the core your people, but you do need them. You do need them. And again, if you're actually building something cool enough, bring them in, but be careful about it. Problem is the mono party is appealing to the normies and everyone else is getting left out and disenfranchised. That's the people who are free votes. Yeah. The issue there is they control so much because of how the parties have been set up that they will do everything to hold on to that power. It's very hard to pry them away.
They look a lot like what New Hampshire does. And then when New Hampshire has 5 times the size, 10 times the size,
Yep.
then you start moderating the
Yeah.
messaging, right? You don't, but when you're at the early stages, that's not the time to moderate the messaging. People don't need to hear, this hyper workshopped, kind of thing that is what we see coming out of politicians when they're competing for the 5 to 10% of people who are tuned out and are, looking to hear, just this little thing that will get them to go and vote. You're trying to select for things that are going to make people be committed and dedicated participants in what you're building.
And as we were talking about, you can see that in New Hampshire because there is a massive commitment in moving states. Like if people are moving states to join the New Hampshire Libertarian Party, the Free State Project, they are going to be massively more committed. Like you can't do that with normies. Like, but the very act of doing that makes you not a normie. Like no normies are moving to New Hampshire to join the Libertarian Party over there.
That means you need to be giving them something that they're really not getting anywhere else.
You said at the convention that a lot of people don't want to use the word libertarian anymore because the public, understandably, associates that word with the kind of people you're fighting against in the LP. So, but you haven't abandoned the word, you yourself. So why not? If somebody on the street asks you describe your political orientation, you would say libertarian?
I'd say libertarian. I definitely, I will often add qualifiers like right-wing libertarian, or now of course we're playing around with this libertarian nationalist phrase as another way
Nice.
of separating, the type of libertarian that you are. The problem is, okay, there are a bunch of small L libertarians in America. By my read, it's still around 5 to 10% of the American population. They just predominantly exist within the Republican Party. So you're left with the type of person who either because they're antisocial or just really left-wing, and they're so left-wing that they can't be a Republican, that they're the ones who are in the Libertarian Party. They drive the perception of the brand, and this is why other people won't call themselves libertarian. Tom, I understood this, by the way, 4 or 5 years ago. It's why I wanted to get involved with the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. It's why I'm doing what we're doing here, is to attempt to keep a better vision and a better version of that word alive in the public consciousness. And the Free State movement is still going. The intent is to create a libertarian homeland, and that's never going to happen if we're attracting the kinds of libertarians in the Libertarian Party nationally. We need to attract the kinds of small L libertarians who are tired of not getting what they want out of the Republican Party.
Yep.
And we're going to get an even better version of that, happening and working here. Far better, right? Far better.
And the nice thing is too, because it's on the local level, it's not just throwing things away. Like we were talking about how that you can't necessarily win third party, but you can make your voice heard, that you are a big enough voice to be needed to be catered to. If you're doing it on more of a local level, like the New Hampshire party is, you actually do get results as well as building your voice. Like it's really genius what they've been doing. Because you can actually win and make the argument that your voice matters at the same time. You would say I'm right leaning. you say you are right leaning, but you're open to ideas. What would you say my major libertarian beliefs are? Well, just like this guy just said, and don't capitalize that, because that's what we're talking about here. I'm not a big L libertarian, because those are the gay commies. But yeah, so there's not necessarily a conflict. Just like he was saying, he's a right wing libertarian. I am a right wing libertarian as well. So one of the big distinctions I like to make there is because there's this idea that a bunch of that libertarianism implies like open borders and hippy dippy free movement of people and all that shit. So right off the bat, I like to go to that there is very strong arguments for a also, like he said, kind of libertarian nationalism. So there's no real conflict. I'm not trying to sway anyone over, and definitely not like from right. You said you're right leaning, so I'm like, okay, cool, that's good. No, I was just kidding. Anyway, I was just kidding, but that was what we were talking about. So yeah, no, I don't actually take it as an insult. It was just funny. But yeah, so. Yeah, exactly. Libertarian does not incorporate the type of weirdo who has tried to attach themselves to the party. So yeah, it's I like how Dave Smith describes it. The right-wing libertarian argument is like, as stakeholders in the country, as taxpayers, whether you like it or not, a classic pirate libertarian, hell yeah. But yeah, as stakeholders in the society, the people, the CEOs of the nation, if you will, the politicians, owe it to us to actually do things in our best interest. Like, they have to serve us. It's as you can see, there's a lot of overlap between republicanism and libertarianism in that sense. So yeah, they have to serve us. So the like free drugs and let people do what they want brand of libertarianism directly conflicts with that, because like, we pay for the parks, we pay for the streets, we pay for all that. If the government is letting homeless people just shoot up at your kid's playground or just camp out on the street or whatever, that is a direct betrayal of the people, of the stakeholder. Likewise, it's the government's duty to protect the borders and not just let anyone in to compete with us. Like, there does need to be some level of protectionism there too. And you're not, just like you're not obligated to let anyone into your house, you're not obligated to let anyone into your nation either. So you can make a very strong private property libertarian argument for strict closed borders, nationalism sort of thing. 2A and small government, I mean, those are all very important, yes, as well as individual freedom if you're not hurting other people or society, basically. So I don't like authoritarianism. I think there's room for some level of authoritarianism, because you can't go one way or the other too hard. I've said before, it's really interesting too, because you do have to, if there's things you want to protect, you do have to acknowledge that as a, for lack of a better word, an identity. So you do need some level of collectivism, even as an individualist, or the other collectivists will overrun you. You do need some level of authoritarianism, even if you're a libertarian, something like that. So it's not a one flip completely to one side or the other. Like, you do need force to protect that. Anyway, yeah, no, it's government protecting the rights of the individuals from powerful entities like large businesses. Yes, that gets a little trickier, again, just because of how badly the government handles things like that. I can't necessarily trust them to do that. But in theory, yes, like, the government should be protecting people from powerful entities within the nation as well. But like I said, it gets tricky when the government doesn't do that and ends up serving their interest instead. But yes, in theory, 100%. To some extent, again, if taken too far, it does get authoritarian as well too. But yeah, so basically that's the scale of like communism to corporatocracy or something like that. So if pushed too far to one side, you get communism, where the government is taking from the successful to give to the poor, like we were talking about, which is not a good thing. And pushed to the other side, you have them protecting the rich and screwing over everyone else who becomes the poor. Let's mimic the Free State Project and have a based VTuber state and all of us move to Wyoming. I think we'd be better off, like maybe eventually, but I think we'd be better off just doing it digitally, which is kind of what we're doing already. Just build our own culture here on the internet. But yes, I think honestly, we do kind of need a mix. Obviously, we're way too early for that, but it would be interesting to do more in real life too, which I know goes against a lot of the VTuber mindset, and for good reason. But we can't, if we're actually going to get out there and change things, we can't just do it on the digital. It's a mix, because obviously we can, and it's very important, and probably that's where our energy is best spent. But I also would love to do more real life community stuff at some point, but it's not exactly feasible and causes a whole bunch of issues as well. But it's something to think about. United VTubers of America. We got to come up with a cuter acronym though, because that'd be funny. A big L libertarian policy of let businesses do whatever they want. Yeah, it's kind of funny that that's coming from the communists too. Anyway, let's continue.
Then the best Republican successes that
Workshopping
are
it.
happening.
Yes.
Can you imagine? Let's say that the LP didn't have this loser problem, and it was really, competent people who really believe in the stuff, who are able to communicate to normal people why these ideas are important and normal, and a normal person can embrace them. Suppose that's where we were, and now you get to 2028, and a lot of libertarians are
Hey there, Squinty. How's it
unhappy
going?
with, some things coming out of Trump world, and that Trump world is now turning into Lindsey Graham and Mark Levin and the people who hated Trump's guts.
Yep. I
10
mentioned
years
that
ago.
earlier.
Now
Not even
suddenly
10
it's
years,
like,
not
wow,
even
no.
10 years ago. They said they wouldn't support him in 2024. And definitely 2016. But yeah, again, what they call core MAGA is now never Trumpers. You just got to pay attention. And again, I'm talking the top level stuff, not the on the ground supporters, but like Trump's top circle that calls themselves core MAGA now were the ones who swore they'd never support him, and he was disgusting and evil basically, and untrustworthy and all that.
They're front and center, and there are a lot of people who are unhappy
Nice,
about
nice,
that and
nice.
some things that he's done. What
Ooh,
do you
yeah.
think the Libertarian Party should do in that situation?
Well, I'm still skeptical that the Libertarian Party really has a winning message here. Like this idea, and you're an excellent, communicator. You're one of the best that we've got.
Yep, no, very much so. It's absurd that we've gotten to this point when so much of what the government is doing directly conflicts with the Constitution and our alleged core values. Like, and again, we've talked about this before too. A big part of that is just that they kind of psyoped everyone with the whole democracy thing. Like they just kept pushing further and further from the idea of the representational republic to a democracy, which makes it feel like the people are in charge, but we're clearly not. And a lot of people know this, but there's still that sort of spell on people that we're being represented. Like even when we know it, we're not. Like it's easy to psyop yourself and just be like, well, we're being represented, but not perfectly. At least we're not China or something like that. Like there's this hanging power that's just tricks people into being like, well, okay, this is just how things are. And that's kind of how we've slid so far. Is we've just ironically, because we think we're being represented, we let the politicians do whatever they want to us.
Offer. And you've also probably talked to a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people. Do you think that, you really can. Like, to me, a lot of people are just inconvertible, or maybe they'll agree in the moment, but they're just going to snap right back, uh, a little bit later.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
So
Constitutional
again,
republic.
this is something.
Our
even thinking about,
democracy.
this is
We're not in a
the
democracy.
libertarian movement, sort of nationwide. When I try to look at,
Yep.
or maybe I'm a libertarian for different reasons than these people at this point. Maybe I'm the weird one, but to me, I'm a libertarian because I want the government. I want to have much lower taxes. I don't as low as possible, ideally zero, but maybe we can't get all the way there. I want to have less regulation so that businesses can grow faster and people can, innovate faster. And I want less coercion in terms of how people can live their lives and how they can, associate with one another. If I look at how the policy solutions to these problems, they're all massively unpopular, right? No one wants to repeal the Civil Rights Act and allow people to choose and give people more choice over their neighbors. No one wants to take. The only way we can make an argument against, SNAP and Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security is if we tell people there's massive fraud. And while I believe there is a fraud problem, I believe plenty of it's perfectly legitimate. And so the idea of let's stop giving free food to poor people, this is just a massively unpopular position, even in the Republican Party. And similarly, if I say, hey, AI is a really exciting technology. Let's try to keep it as unencumbered by regulation as we can so that as much development can happen as possible. Let's let people do really interesting things with biotechnology. These are just really, all of these are really unpopular positions. There's objectively not popular positions. And so
I'm with them on a lot of that. I will say biotechnology is a little bit disturbing and probably should be somewhat regulated. Because I think it's way too easy. Like, because it's bio, it would be way too easy to spread. So the wrong sort of biotechnology could really fuck humans over in a big way. Just look at COVID, for example. We were talking about COVID earlier. So I think there does need to be some level of regulation on biotech because it's so directly interfaces with humans. Aside from herded cats known as libertarians, the second biggest problem with libertarianism is most people have an inherent need for someone to be in charge, make big decisions, and take the blame. Yes, but in biotech, like playing God, not into the whole transhumanism thing. Aside from, again, though, libertarians can take charge. It's not an either or. Bioengineered plants, again, like I'm not saying the tech isn't cool. I'm just saying we need to keep a very close eye on it because something like bioengineered plants could get into and we've already seen that to some extent with the genetically modified stuff where it kind of takes over and you have those horror stories with like patented plants and everything, and the big corporations trying to use that to harm farmers and everything. We just need to be very careful because it's alive. It can spread. So again, not saying the tech isn't cool. There are very cool bioengineered plants. They're very cool. Even like I was talking about the transhumanist stuff. There's very cool digital interfaces for humans too, like something like Neuralink. That is very cool. That doesn't make it not dangerous though. Like, there's also a lot of danger there. Biotech can be cool. I just still think it's very dangerous.
And this is why libertarians have retreated to
nanobot tech.
Yep. Right? They retreat to stuff like, the billionaires are pedophiles and anti-war stuff. And I support the anti-war stuff. I want to be very clear.
Damn, that's cool.
I support the anti-war stuff. But the reason the anti-war stuff gets traction,
GMO flowers.
Base for that. If the people who are really upset about the war, a lot of those people would not be along for the ride on these other, issues. And so I think just a lot of what libertarians want is objectively unpopular. It's the result of a somewhat unusual psychology. It doesn't make us wrong. We want what we want. There are enough of us to get it if we were able to cooperate and work together and of course, in my opinion, physically come together, in a specific place, then we can have these things. But we're not going to set the world free. We're not and this is the haters can clip this one because I hate it, but like, it's not about whether we're objectively correct. You know, we want it. I want it. That's it. That's all I need. All the arguments are over. I want it. I'm willing to fight for it. If enough people want anything and are willing to fight for it, then they get it. That's the reality of the way the world actually works.
Yep.
It's not analytic philosophy, and we're not gonna reason most people into adopting our position.
You know, it was so hard.
Just
for me
just
to
do
accept,
things.
Jeremy,
Just do things. Exactly.
when people started trying to explain it to me, because you know I'm by nature an academic, and that's what I do in books, and that's what I do at conferences or in debates or on a panel. Is I'm not telling stories. I'm not appealing to people's emotions. I'm marshaling evidence and trying to make a case. And to be told, well, unfortunately, that's not the way people form their opinions, that is a very hard pill to swallow. I do not want to be told that. And
Well, some people do. Like some people,
right, you and I.
yeah, yeah. Like I had to be reasoned into, free markets, working. But I mean, I remember reading, Hazlitt and Capital and Freedom by Milton Friedman. When I
Yeah.
was like 7. Well, of course, I don't know what kind of 17 and 8-year-olds are reading books like this, but I was, and these were. This is what part of got me, on the journey. And I started reading Econ Lib. I started reading like every Brian Kaplan post, obsessively, like as a teenager and through my 20s. And so I became very, very, persuaded of these arguments.
And yeah,
And
some
I
of the
saw it
medical stuff is
firsthand as I
cool.
later became, an innovator and someone who builds things. But a lot. So I lost the train of thought there. It is hard to accept that we're not going to be able to reason people into it, but it's also kind of freeing.
You do believe we should have a strong military, though? Be prepared in case of emergency. I agree. Number one thing, though, is we need to cut down on corruption because, again, it's hard because there's no one size fits all solution. You can't. We were talking earlier about pressing the buttons. Unfortunately, there is no real button to immediately end government corruption. So yeah, my issue with having a quote unquote strong military is we're massively overspending. Like we could cut our military budget in a quarter and have a stronger military probably if we fix some of the other issues. So I agree a nation needs a strong military. Our military budget is a absolute fucking joke and doing a bunch of harm to the country and the people, though. You want to give food to people who don't have full-time jobs. Unfortunately, there aren't good controls to determine who needs what. Yes. And again, like I said, if it's a long-term thing, it's also just bad. Like we shouldn't be supporting people endlessly. I don't think that's healthy for anyone. People do need to be able to fail on their own. I'm in favor of limited safety nets. We should be giving food to people who need it for a while. And if they're not capable of feeding themselves for whatever reason, there should be some other way to handle them. Like maybe they shouldn't be if it's mental illness or something like that. If they're a detriment to society in multiple ways, then you put them in the box, so to speak. Like there does need to be some way to deal with the people who are not capable of engaging with society too. And I'm not saying that's the poor in general or the hungry, to be very clear. I'm not saying put all people who can't feed themselves into asylums, but if we're talking for that reason, if that's why they can't feed themselves and they're not capable of interacting with society, then you do need to be able to kind of do something with them that is humane, but like not just endlessly support them in a society that they're not capable of engaging with. You need a good argument, fact, truth, and more importantly, appeal to their emotions. That part can be done well by this community. On what issue, JD? Republic?
Because it's an explanation for why this stuff hasn't worked. It gives us a path that can work. And I will emphasize again, it's not a reason to not try. There are teenagers right now who do need to hear the Tom Woods message, and could come around to agree with you. And if they don't hear it from someone, then they won't get there. So I do want to be very clear that like this argument is that there's a ceiling on persuadability, not that persuadability never does it.
Yeah, no, I get it. But it's the whole thing about, well, some people are moved by logic and numbers and other people are moved by stories and emotion and whatever. And I guess I can do both. I just resent having to do, and especially because I mean, wait, hold on a second. You go back to the very beginning of Western philosophy, and what does Aristotle say is the characteristic feature of human beings? Reason. So you think, all right, well, if reason is what distinguishes us from every other living being, then reason ought to be the basis on which we make decisions. And it doesn't. It isn't.
Well, part of what I've come around to is that a lot of it, a lot of these people who can't quote be reasoned into libertarianism are not necessarily being irrational. You know, I think ultimately a lot of people, uh, I need to work up like the framing or phrasing of this rule needs a name or something. But basically,
Yep.
the idea is that there are very few, if any, people who hold a set of political beliefs that, if enacted, would result in them being
Yep. And I think I am working on a J-pop song of my own along those lines too, just because it's fun. Yeah, like I said, do the thing, get involved in whatever way in whatever small way you can. Try to change people's mind into something that will be more beneficial to society. I think it's pretty cool. Join the counter psyop.
lower status. So notice I said status, not less wealthy. Okay. And I think there are very few people who hold political beliefs that would, you know, if enacted, make them, you know, lower status. And so, well, you know, why can't I reason, you know, someone in welfare to vote Republican or Libertarian? Well, it's really not, you know, it's really not in their self-interest to do so. You know, and there are very few, and also similarly, why and Democrats will make this argument that that the lower classes or those with lower income who don't vote Democrat are against their self-interest. But even there, they actually are voting for their self-interest. They have a psychology that resents handouts, and they feel that receiving handouts would make them, you know, lower status.
Yep.
And so there's really no one or very few people who aren't reasoning that way.
Hell yeah.
And so one of the ways that if you did want to have a path to libertarianism that would be broadly appealing, you have to get a coalition together of people who would all benefit, or at least would perceive themselves to benefit, you know, from this stuff that, you know, actually being enacted. And the truth is that just a lot of people wouldn't. They wouldn't in the sense of growing the whole pie. Like this is, and libertarians will make this argument as well. You know, so it is true that we would grow the whole pie. But if everyone has twice as much stuff overnight, or everyone has to work half as many hours overnight, but then also as a result of this, some people are super wealthy and, you know, some people have more. A lot of people will take the flatter world
Yep.
with, you know, more disease and more poverty simply because it's flatter. And this
Yep.
is,
Which is absolutely fucking retarded. Like there's this whole the rich are oppressing us or whatever, and in the current society there's plenty of truth to that. They have disproportionate power due to their wealth and are not using it very well in many cases, perhaps even most cases. But like in a world where our quality of living is closer to something like the 50s or 60s or whatever, before things fell completely apart, like I don't care if there are rich people. I don't care if they're rich people. I don't care if they're mega rich people. As long as they're not using that wealth to destroy my way of life, I don't care that there's inequality. Hey, Surface, and have a good one, Cody. Good night. J-pop, Concept Senti, Keen. Oh yeah, we are counter psyoping. Hell yeah.
and then the really hard part to accept is this isn't necessarily against their evolutionary self-interest.
Yeah, it took me a while to come to certain conclusions.
Yeah,
but
I'm still not sure if I'm all the way through.
Yeah. No, I know. That's right. That's right. I mean, I'm doing the opposite of what I did 8 years ago in some ways now. I mean, so I'm just trying, because the thing is, strategy.
People need to learn to invest their money, yes, but also it's kind of a trap too. Like, due to how the central banks work with inflation and money printing and rate control, basically investment is the only way to grow your money, and that just forces people to put their money back into the system. So while it does benefit people, it's also a trap. And as a libertarian, like we're talking about, I resent that they've played so many games with the funny money that they're forcing people to invest. Like, buy gold. Yes, buy gold. Just looked over at Leaflet's screen and the timing's funny. She's watching Mantis Wave's new video on libertarians and culture. Okay, we'll have to check that out too. We'll see what they have to say.
You can have honorable disagreements about. I mean, the ideas themselves, they are what they are. But how best to advance them? Well, okay, we can have disagreements about that. And so I do sometimes change. Well, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should support that. But now, Jeremy, we've reached the point in the episode in which we're going to degenerate into gossip. So there's a story. Now, I wouldn't have even brought this up if it hadn't gotten all over social media. Can you tell me? Well, you know what? Just tell the story. It's involving that woman. Just tell the story.
About so there's sort of two pieces, but there was okay. So there's two pieces of this, so they're related stories. So one is overnight on
okay,
Saturday.
that looks cool.
There was property, signage, and some other stuff taken, including our state affiliate banner.
Let me go back a little bit.
Well, you know what? Just tell the story. It's involving that woman. Just tell the story.
About so there's sort of two pieces, but there was okay. So there's two pieces of this, so they're related. Stories. So one is overnight on Saturday, there was property, signage, and some other stuff. That's
interesting. The gold creation. I wonder if that will be allowed to go through or not. Like it depends. Like we were talking about the elites holding disproportionate power. Like it depends on if they benefit more from destroying gold as a vehicle, or if they want to hold on to gold themselves. Also, isn't China one of you did say China, right? No, you didn't. My mind made that up for some reason. That's interesting though, because other countries have been trying to, seems like, get back on the gold standard. Hi, Annie, by the way. But yeah, it seems like Russia and China, I think, have been buying up a lot of gold. So the idea of using fusion to produce gold and devalue existing gold would be a direct attack on China and Russia. So that is interesting and definitely worth keeping an eye on, especially if you're thinking of putting money in gold. Oh man.
Stuff taken, including our state affiliate banner that was taken from
China.
The LPNH table. We went to national staff about it on Sunday morning. They were able to work with the security team to identify the woman responsible. When I attempted to bring this up on the floor, I was shouted down by other members, and the chair did not remotely follow, R&R.
Yeah, but it costs a ton to produce it. The energy cost would be more than gold is worth anywhere near its current value. I don't know. I've not looked into it, but I will say, like, nuclear power is incredibly efficient. So if you're using that, and I'm not sure if that's a fusion. But yeah, anyway, basically, if you can produce gold at the same time you're also producing energy, it probably balances out too.
RONR on how this is supposed to be handled. He chose to kick me out instead. Another member.
That's crazy. They just hate the New Hampshire party. Nah, I'd win. Yeah, I was super tired and knew I had to stream, and I'm just like, nah, I'd win. And like I said, nah, I'd win is a great great sort of attitude to have anyway. And considering I'm counter psyoping here, we need more. Nah, I'd win. Like that's got to be the attitude when they say, no, you're like, nah, I'd win. I've been saying that for a while. I'm leaning into it harder.
So we had national leadership basically endorsing stealing the property of LPNH simply because we're unpopular, which to me is like, this is the most fundamental aspect of our beliefs.
Yeah.
Private property?
This
Yeah.
same woman, although we didn't know this at the time, this same, because the evidence hadn't been all put together yet, this same woman also came up to our table and took a stack of like nice printed, magazines, a decent dollar amount to get all of those printed. There wasn't even a sign like free or anything like that. She didn't talk to any of us, and we were sitting right there. She came up, she took the entire stack. Our um, our people who were sitting there said, "Give those back. You can't take those." My wife pursued her, and they started tugging at the on the papers. She was refusing
Insane.
to hand them back over. And then another member of our party,
Drop kicked
hit her.
him. Yes. Based.
And he ended up getting arrested over that. And she suffered, again, no penalties for an for an
Huh.
attempted petty, theft. I think what our guy did was kind of stupid and hot-headed.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it was a violation of libertarian principles. I think it is. I think if a thief gets slapped in the, like, to me, an appropriate penalty for petty theft is, you get whipped in the town square once or twice, or something like this. Like, I have no problem. The type of person who would do, our goal is to get this kind of behavior out of society. To me, this is part of what
Yep.
decency is. You don't take other people's stuff. That's again the foundation of what we're supposed to believe. But he did end up getting arrested, and I do think it was a distraction. I think he could have handled it in other ways, but I also don't see it as a violation of libertarian ethics to do what he did, and I think theft is worse than what he did for sure.
Yep.
Hey, everybody, Tom Woods here with a quick tip for small business owners. If your business isn't showing up online, your competitors are getting the leads, and you're missing out. That's where Persist SEO comes in. For over 15 years, they've been helping local.
Assuming current electricity costs, it would be approximately blank to per kilogram to produce that gold. Like Nikola said, though, if you're using it, if you can use the excess energy that is happening in the reactor anyway to produce it, then that you're not actually spending $200,000 per kilogram to produce the gold. It's just kind of excess stuff, if I'm understanding correctly. I'm not a nuclear engineer, but yeah, if you can use that nuclear energy that is happening anyway to produce gold at the same time, it could be feasible.
Businesses grow through SEO, paid ads, and the latest in AI-powered search optimization, so you stay visible and competitive in the digital age. Whether you're in home services, legal, or healthcare, Persist SEO delivers real results without locking you into long-term contracts or overwhelming you with tech jargon. Visit ineedseo.help or call 770-580-3736 to schedule your free consultation. That's ineedseo.help. Easy to remember, powerful for your small business. Do you have anything else from the convention itself that you experienced, or anything you heard, or anything good, bad, ugly that you might share?
There's so much ugly. It's so much. I mean, the amount of people who just I'm like the libertarian antichrist to these people or something. They just lose their composure.
Cool. I'll look into that.
Even near them, and they're happy to go around and gossip behind my back, but they would never sit down and have a conversation. They would never even have a public exchange. They wouldn't even engage in a debate with me. They don't even want to prove me, wrong and prove that I'm a, racist or whatever. They want to live in this closed off space where certain ideas, can't be.
It is wild. I knew there was conflict between the mainline Libertarian Party and New Hampshire Libertarian Party, but I didn't realize they were this hated by those people. It shouldn't surprise me, considering they call the New Hampshire people racists and all that, and the mainline one is, as we've seen, largely a bunch of leftists. So I guess it shouldn't have surprised me.
Heard and can't be encountered. And it's not new to me, because I've honestly had this experience hundreds of times already, but it is still strange to me Like there was a guy who came up to me and he was very upset. He said, that, what we were doing was costing them money or whatever. And they always struggle to substantiate this. But he, he said, do you understand that a lot of people don't like you? And why? And I said, yes, absolutely. Do you understand why so many people do like that? A lot.
You've been thinking lately, legally, what would it take to start your own country? Just a thought. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of room is part of the problem. Like, I'm not like, where would you start it? Because there's a lot of the planet is already claimed. Most of the planet is countries. So you basically, I guess you'd have two ways to go about it. You actually like three. You can do the sneaky way, and basically all of them are going to involve a bunch of power. So normal people can't do it. You either get institutional power, worm your way into a government, and get them to grant you a like one of their protectorates or something like that. Like you could take an island or something from the UK and turn that into your own country. I know they've got some like that already. And then the other ways are similar vein: buy a country from someone else and start your own country. And lastly, the classic, which is military force. But either way, you're going to need a lot of power. I don't think it's anything we can do. Built an island. That's okay. Okay. Conquer some country in Africa. That's interesting. Okay, I hadn't considered that. Yes. I wonder how that works with international maritime law and everything like that. If you build a new island, like a floating device of some kind, that's probably more in line. But again, I'm not sure how you get officially recognized. You would need some sort of power there too. Okay, wait. It didn't. Yeah. Okay, you do that and also have nuclear weapons. There you go. That's how you start a new country. First step, nukes. Second step, build a badass floating island. Well, yeah, badass floating island. And then just be like, okay, we're a country now. You guys wanna talk about it? A lot of dirt? No. You can use like plastic or something. Like you can have it float. You don't actually build an island down to the seafloor. You have it float. So it's more like a giant boat. You don't need dirt. You need lots of plastic or something and nukes.
People do like me and why? And he really struggled to answer the question. Like he could not answer the question. And so they'll retreat to
What's a bat bomb?
Your people just like you because you're racist or whatever. And it's like that's not why at all. There's very little, I've yet to see or find any sort of hardline type racism and stuff like this from. It's just people having the experiences, living around different types of people, and realizing that there are some kinds of people they prefer to live around more than others. I don't hear anyone here really talking about creating, a specifically ethnic state or things like this. It's more
Interesting. I'll have to look in. There's another thing to look into. What the heck's a bat bomb? Let's see here. Call it Keen Island. Oh, we could just build Rising Tide. Like that could be the country. Rising Tide. Need to secure to seafloor to count as territory? Pfft, not if you have nukes. Like I said, not if you have nukes. We can just get our floating ship to count as a country because they can't say no.
more select. We just know that there are more decent people, and from
Weren't those incendiaries? It doesn't matter if it can do massive damage. You still have the same mutually assured destruction threat. Like basically, you just have to be able to. Like one of the first answers we had was like, what does it take to start your own country? First answer there was the ability to defend it against anyone who wants to take it from you. So you need that level of force to lash out at people. And if you have that, if you're more dangerous in a conflict than out of it, they'll let you call yourself a country. Muskrat seems most likely to create new countries. Are we talking space? That is also very good. I was thinking too locally. I was earthbound there. We gonna be independent? Oil platform. Oh yeah, we could just take over an oil platform or something like that. Space. No, that is probably the best way. Although once again, you need a whole lot of resources. So you're gonna have to. You're more likely to attach yourself to someone already successful and working in the field, like Elon Musk or something. So basically, that's how you get a new country: is you work for Elon Musk. Hey, KV, welcome.
Places than others. And so, of course, if we're selecting for decency, it's going to look a certain way. This is just math. It's pretty straightforward. But these facts don't seem to enter people's minds, and instead they just get angry. I think a lot of it is struggling with cognitive dissonance.
Man and conquer.
So they take their anger out on the person producing it.
What is the Free State Party?
Yes.
Free State Project.
It's all so. Free State Project is full speed ahead, and their mission is to recruit any libertarian they can to New Hampshire. From the Free State Project's perspective, everyone at the Libertarian Party National Convention is welcome and encouraged to move to New Hampshire. That has to be their official party line until they change their organization or change anything. And I think their leadership is kind of in a tough position because I think they're increasingly coming around to my side of things. I started the Free State Party as a solution to a couple of different problems, but a big one is this problem of standards, that simply having agreeing on, quote, the role of the state is not a clear path to building a libertarian nation and a libertarian society. That we want to be selecting for people with certain caliber in terms of who we want to be associating with. We want to be coming up with standards and practices by which we can explicitly be cooperating. So we have an explicit hierarchy, an explicit structure. It's structured as a private club, which you can do a lot of things with. It's been backed. The names will be coming out, but it's been backed by some pretty prominent right-wing libertarians.
Being self-sufficient there first, true, but also, as we were talking about, you have to be able to defend it as well. So yeah, basically, again, you're going to need a whole lot of resources. You're going to need, hey Noel, hey Arkham, how's it going, guys? But yeah, you're going to need some level of, you're going to need a whole lot of tech that doesn't currently exist to do the space self-sufficiency and self-defense. Plot of BioShock, hell yeah. I regret nothing.
Some very, very successful people have given some financial backing to this organization. And we also, I believe, have some of the solution for
hell yeah
the normies, right? And the normies, the solution for
hell yeah, Arkham, I hope you had a good stream. Looked like you did.
Decent people with standards and have ways of making their lives better through cultural practices, through things that we can do, around how we're raising our kids. We host a whole bunch of family-friendly events that are open to the public. And so, we're kind of trying to offer, a sort of uniform that someone who
would
might
you
not be
kindly
political, but who might,
again
want certain things out of their life, that by stepping into this group of people, they can help, get those. And that will change the way that they vote and the way that they associate. Because if you're
again, we're not voting big L libertarian because the whole point of this video is that there are a bunch of degenerate communists. So yeah, libertarianism I still think is good. Libertarian Party is a well-known joke that poisons the whole concept of libertarianism often. And this guy, Jeremy Kauffman, is the New Hampshire Libertarian Party, Free State Party person, and he's giga-based.
Part of a club that acts this way and does these things, then you'll adopt their positions in other ways. And we won't have reasoned with them. We won't have given them the logical arguments. We'll give them the slogans, of course, and we'll influence them, but we won't have done it the way that we ourselves got there for the most part.
So what is your organization? Like, what are you up to?
He's just like, yeah, we'll own the normies.
I'm running it.
Okay.
So
what? So you, was that your organization that I attended that event?
That's right. That was our
Oh.
launch party. That was the kickoff.
Family friendly, so no guys stripping to their underwear on stage. Whatever could you be talking about, Republic? That just sounds so out there. All parties seem to have become commie infested. Yeah. Videos, audio is super low. Your mic volume is good. I can turn it up more. That'd be annoying if it's been quiet the whole time. I don't think so. Someone else would have mentioned, but I can turn it up a little more. Other thing is, it might have been because I was talking. It might have been ducking a little bit.
Of the
Okay.
Free State
So
Party.
you hold events where you'll have somebody come and you guys will have a discussion together, stuff like that.
That's right. So I will look. This is uncharted territory, so we're figuring this out.
Yeah.
But the goal is to sort of, if you're familiar with Balaji Srinivasan's work, this is sort of the Free State network state. It's an explicit structure. So we have private events for our members, where we kind of organize behind the scenes, and then we have public events that are meant to either influence the local culture, and so the
I love how open he is about it. Holy shit, the psyop. Hey Ace, how's it going? Welcome. Man, that's something.
these tend to be, they're open to the public, but they're not on the internet. And then we also have these live events, which are intended to help influence the internet culture. And these we publish to our Free State Party YouTube, as well as to our X account, which is Free State PTY, because I'm not ready to dump $20,000 on an X handle. And
Ooh, 20,000. What?
they've been really well received. We had Robin Hansen on cultural drift, who would be it's an absolutely fascinating topic. We had Austin Peterson on nationalism. I did one on immigration with Bruce Fenton.
Ooh.
And we're going to be continuing to have prominent figures out and have.
I'd have to check out some of that too.
They're social events, so people get to mix with each other. We help people network, and we're building a strong, healthy community.
I was about to say they're building stuff. This is what we've been talking about. This is just doing it. Again, he had a lot more power to start because he'd been just doing it for a while and built up stuff. But like, yeah, no, this is badass. He's just like, yep, no, we're doing this.
Of the kinds of libertarians that you would want to be associating with.
Why would you go to the Libertarian Party convention?
Nice,
with
Steps
the
Walker.
platform that you had,
Yeah.
knowing that you're speaking
Yeah, I guess
not
so.
to like the libertarian movement, but you're speaking to delegates who have so much tied up in being part of this thing that there ain't no way your message could possibly resonate with them. Was it just a matter of, I don't care if it resonates, these things have to be said?
Well, there are a couple of percentage of people who will. Like, I'll tell you, I think there might have been everyone under 25 at the national convention, came up and was quite friendly to me. And so there are people, people there, it was their first convention. Okay. And so they heard me say those things. And, maybe they won't get trapped in the Libertarian Party. And, maybe they'll find another strategy. There is a sense of it needing to be said. And there's also a sense like, look, Tom, I'm not an idiot. There's what happens at convention, and then there's what happens on social media and in the public discussion afterwards. And so this is another chance to continue to get these important, messages out. So I want to be clear that I was attending to speak to the people there. I hope the people there heard the message. But I also, the video of my speech, it's got more views than Justin Amash's. I believe it's the most viewed video coming out of convention. Oh, and of course, by the way, this is another little funny one. They turned off comments. So when I was speaking, they had comments on the entire convention until I started talking.
God damn. See, this is why people hate the Libertarian Party. What a fucking joke.
And then they turned off comments on their live stream. And so just this fear of engaging with my ideas and what I had to offer out of libertarians of all people who are supposed to believe in free speech and debate.
Yep.
Is just something else. And I think we're mostly getting what we've wanted. If they want to disaffiliate, guess it's funny. I don't know, Tom. I'm like, I don't. I'm kind of like playing these people a little bit. Like I go in there and I play the heel a little bit, just a little bit. They throw all their.
I love how open he is about the psyop. It's hilarious.
All their principles out the window. They break all of these rules. They break the law, and now this is going to be talked about for another year or two, and it will just be more mentions of New Hampshire and more
Yep.
cycles of people
Commie's gonna
talking
commie
about this. So I don't know why they handle me as stupidly as they do, but I do thank them for it to some degree.
What do you think the Libertarian Party
Yeah.
is going to look
Red
like
flag.
with this new leadership? I mean, yes, it's obvious what the kinds of candidates they want to push, but what do you? I mean, the first thing they did was to try to disaffiliate you guys, or I guess that they've actually done it.
So they voted for it. There is an appeals process, and since they did not do it in a legal manner, there will also be an ongoing lawsuit process, most likely.
Okay.
And savelpnh.com has more information about that, and anyone who could support us would be fantastic.
All right. I'm writing that down so I can put it on tomwoods.com/2765. I'll have that link there. So given that that's their priority, what other things do you envision coming out of this organization?
I mean, I imagine we're going to get, some of the wokest messaging you could possibly expect, all the trans and minority rights and, more all that stuff. You're not going to get, this is another interesting one. It's like, the Libertarian Party, like they got on their knees for George Floyd, like right away. They're not going to talk about Dalton Etherly, the Chud the Builder guy. And I'm not trying to take you down a rabbit hole discussing that case, but like, this is a case from my reads. It should be pretty offensive to libertarians if we, believe in, the non-aggression principle and self-defense and so on. And we're not going to hear a word from them about it because the vice chair, the woman who's elected vice chair, part of her campaign was to get the NAP out of the platform that they want to move away from.
What?
They want to move away from all of that. So we'll get
What? Why? What? I'm so confused.
some of the least libertarian messaging. Yeah. Libertarian Party will look really bad. I think it's not so bad. I mean, they won't take us. Anyone who sees what they're saying, his
whole speech was that he wanted them irrelevant anyway. Turning them into a more explicitly leftist organization is actually good. Like it turns them basically into, instead of something that is somewhat pulling from the right, it's pulling from the left. It's less votes for the Democrats, I guess.
Only going to be recruiting from Democrats. They're only going to be recruiting.
There we
from the
go.
left. No one on the right is going to find anything they're doing appealing.
Right.
So, as someone who generally wants the Republican, and the Republicans aren't always on the right themselves, but as someone who wants the right to win, I think it's not so bad. The sad part is, as someone who still likes the name libertarian, I think it's just going to continue to get worse.
Well, of all the different places I could link people, is savelpnh.com the most important one at the moment?
That's right. So Save LPNH is the ongoing fundraising campaign, and then
I wonder why they need it anyway. Like, why do they need to be officially linked with the shit organization that he called useless anyway? Like, they can still exist on their own. They still keep all the name recognition they currently have. I mean, they can be a separate New Hampshire Libertarian Party.
Want to check out freestate.party. It's not open to the public to join. It's only for insiders here in New Hampshire, so there's nothing to sign up for, but people can watch the YouTube videos, and there's some great content on there.
Okay. I'll have it all linked to tomwoods.com/2765. Now, remember, as I said earlier, don't go away. But even though it looks like it's ending, and whatever happens at the end of these
need a new
episodes
name,
happens,
maybe. Yeah.
stick around because we're going to play Jeremy's speech for you.
They didn't,
regrets?
though.
Are you glad you did it?
Honestly, my biggest, am I glad that I did this? Yeah, this is all, I feel pretty good about all of this. You can always find ways you could have done something a little better. That's my mentality. So it's like, oh yeah, I wish I'd said this in the speech or whatever. And I do regret some of the stuff that came out. I think it potentially distracted from what could have been a better, message. So we'll also, we had a lot of rookies with us at convention this year because people don't want to go to these things. And so I think, I have some light regrets there. But overall, I think it was a successful, mostly successful from our side.
Jeremy Kauffman, thanks so much.
Thank you.
tomwoods.com/2765 will have all the links, everybody. Thanks so much for watching.
Make yourself and those you love less vulnerable to the regime, both mentally and physically. Get more forbidden information at tomsfreebooks.com, and be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you listen. See you next time.
Like the sound of The Tom Woods Show? My audio production is provided by Podsworth Media. Check them out at podsworth.com.
All right, there we go. There we go. Yeah, that was interesting. Let's see what next. I am curious about that Mentis wave thing, but I don't really want to jump into another long thing. Yeah. That is interesting though. I almost want to jump right into that. Do we just go right in? Maybe. Maybe. What are our other options? Yeah, fuck it. I'm curious. We'll jump right over there. All right, I will be right back. Here we go. Now, chat, behave yourselves. Can't leave you guys alone for a minute now, can I? All right, let's check it out. Ahoy! The culture question and libertarianism. We were just talking about libertarianism from the previous video, so we had to watch this one. Let's see what we got. Bing.
Hey internets, when it comes to the type of people who will try to argue that culture does not matter, you may have found that they mostly fall into two different camps. The first of these camps is the projector camp, the people who will accuse others of being distracted by the culture war, despite the fact that they themselves are very much ingrained in the culture war. These people usually tend to be the progressive woke types, but I've seen this behavior from non-wokes as well. And I've already made a video on this camp and why they are wrong. TLDR, they just kinda lack self-awareness. However, there is another camp of people who will also try to argue that culture doesn't matter.
Communists?
And this is the camp of people who are not really projecting. These are people who genuinely believe that culture does not matter. Or at the very least, they'll try to downplay the importance of culture by calling anything that talks about it quote-unquote culture war schlop, and just using that label as an argument against the topic altogether. And they genuinely make an active and determined effort to distance themselves from anything you can call a quote-unquote culture war. And because I see this camp a lot more within some of the more academic, higher IQ libertarian circles, I'm going to focus this video on this group and why I believe they are making a very grave mistake. And what I see instead is a lot of libertarians...
He's giving them a lot of good faith right off the bat there, when they're kind of the people we were just talking about last video. They're just a bunch of communists too. Like there's... We'll see what the argument is, but it seems to me that there's not a huge amount of difference between this group he's talking about and the one with all the gay shit. culture war stuff. Like, again, these sorts of libertarians are also gay communists, so we'll see.
Thinking that they can just exist somewhere on the internet in some Rothbardian Discord, discussing natural law theory with each other and having a good old time. Honestly, nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's pretty based. But the issue comes in when a lot of them start thinking that the solution to society is for everyone to just wake up one day and come to their senses and for the whole world to just come and join them. And spoiler alert, unfortunately, this is just not going to happen. It would be nice if it would happen. It would be absolutely wonderful if people would just suddenly magically start being smarter, but it's just not how human psychology works. And it's also libertarians giving up a very good strategy that I will go into more as this video goes on. And so I will explain why this mistake is costing the libertarian movement to have any chance of any real victory within our lifetimes. But first off, I'd like to thank this video's sponsor. The reality is, if you are not using a VPN these days, you are—
That's fair enough, Depthswalker. I mean, there are people, and he did, like, those didn't seem to be the, if that is that group, those did not seem to be the specific gay communists. I'll give you that. But yeah, and it, like, you'd think people would be waking up already, because yeah, you'd think you know how right-wing people thought culture war stuff wasn't important until like 10 years, and some are still denigrate the importance of some aspects. Yeah, no, and that's retarded, because we can see, I mean, I've talked about before, you need to be able to defend what you care about. So if you have any values whatsoever, be those you know, American, conservative, or even just wanting to grill, if people out there are saying you can't grill and are coming after your ability to grill, just saying, hey, I want to grill is not an answer. You do have to get engaged in the culture war if there are people coming after what you value. Pippa sounds like the sort of person he's describing. I'm not gonna take shots. I've seen some people taking shots there. I will say it is a little unfortunate. She seems to have backed off on some of those edgier takes and wants to distance herself from it completely and act like she was never involved or whatever. Like, so yeah. Again, not taking shots or whatever, but I do miss old Pippa.
Are susceptible to having your data stolen by copyright trolls, government agencies.
Even if you don't like some culture aspects, don't denigrate it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it seems it can get tiring, but it's necessary.
Access comes into play. They keep your data safe by masking your connection through no-log RAM-only servers, and it should be emphasized that their no-logs policy has been proven several times in court and in various independent audits, thus keeping your data out of the hands of bad actors.
Don't laugh at someone losing their loved things and expect them to protect yours. Yeah, I mean, we've seen the same in the gaming culture war as well. Like, and it's why gamers still, to some extent, have that quote unquote bad reputation, because we actually did stand up and just say no. Like, that's the Gamergate stuff is why they hate us so much, is because we actually did defend, or, you know, try to defend, at least call out what was being done to what we loved. No shot. She's still your Oshi, but that does seem to be her position. Yeah. Yeah, she's currently in hot water, and I'm not saying this is justifiable, but she just greeted a friend, like, I guess Clara, or is that her name? Anyway, she's coming back, and she's one of the ones who cheered on the death of Charlie Kirk, and I think called for Trump's assassination, and just a terrible and unhinged person. And Pippa greeted her, which, again, whatever. I think it's a little weird, but I'm not going to be like cancel her for it, because I think that's gay too. But yeah, it's a little strange, and a lot of people got very upset over it, for better or worse. Gamers don't have to be your audience. No, best headline of all time. Best headline of all time by far. That was amazing.
And in addition to data security and encryption, it also has some nice additional features like auto-blocking of known malicious domains used by ad trackers and malware.
Dude, I love gamers don't have to be your audience.
Viruses and other trashware you don't want. It's also by far the most stable VPN I've used, which is why it's been my go-to for years, and it's available on all devices, including Linux. But in addition to security, private internet access also has servers all over the globe, meaning it can also be used to unlock geo-restricted features. Many websites limit your choices and shopping deals based on where you are located, and many streaming services like Prime Video, Netflix, Hulu, etc., they all restrict the movies and TV shows you can watch based on your location as well. And with this, you can switch your IP to whatever region you want, thus massively expanding your streaming library all at very low cost. Because private internet access is also very affordable. If you use my link in the description or scan this QR code, you can get it now for 83% off at only $2.03 per month and with 4 months free. And all covered with a 30-day money-back guarantee.
Fine, I guess you don't want
Please
gamer
don't
money.
hesitate
Yeah.
to give it a try.
Gamers is so vague and so niche at the
Anyways,
same
let's start
time.
things off with why the quote-unquote culture war actually matters, with the main reason being that culture is intrinsically connected to everything else in society,
Yes.
and there's really no way to disconnect.
Possibly the most important, because like I said, if we fixed culture, all the other issues would go away. It's all connected.
When you look into culture and how it influences society, you'll find out that there's a lot of disagreement. But a lot of people argue that it flows in specific directions. For instance, people will say that politics is downstream from culture, but that's not the complete picture. As I went over in my old video on culture wars, culture is also influenced by intelligentsia or the cathedral and media and academia, etc., etc. And the thing is, politics
They're still searching for that magical modern audience. If any of them find it, let me know. More mythical than Sasquatch. Yes. Like a point and click gamer is nothing like an FPS gamer. It doesn't really matter because the idea that games don't have to appeal to gamers is nonsensical to begin with. Like I get what you're saying, that they're not going to be the same audience, generally speaking. Like maybe someone likes a point and click gamer versus FPS gamer. But yeah, so those aren't necessarily going to be the same audience, but you still, if you're a game company, you should still, making some of those games, you still have to appeal to them. Hollywood, you're next. Yes.
can also give power and funding to that system as well. And the thing is, anybody as an individual can choose to act on any one of these structures of power in order to try and influence things into their desired direction.
Yes.
So for example, you actually can reverse the normal direction that this kind of influence flows by joining politics and then using that political position of yours to defund certain research groups
Yes.
or defund or delegitimize a media organization somehow that's pushing a cultural idea, and through that you will have influenced culture through politics. And because culture can influence politics, culture is therefore a power structure that is just as legitimate as any other political or intellectual institution. And we kind of saw a recent example of this with
Yeah, Future. That's how they do it. They'll try to be like that's how they say, like, how they try to trick the demographics and say like half of gamers are female or whatever as well.
Elon Musk and Doge. Doge defunded a lot of media contracts the state had with the media because those contracts had a specific ideological bend to them, which caused the media to move a little bit more to the center, which is why you may have noticed in the last 2 years or so that culture itself has kind of been moving more to the center. That doesn't mean that woke ideology is dead. The wokeists absolutely still believe what they believe and are basically just biding their time to make a comeback, as evidenced by things like the mixtape fiasco, which basically reveals that the neo-Marxists are still very much in charge of most of the media. But again, things have at least kind of shifted away from them just a little bit. The point is, it all connects, and one of the reasons it connects really just comes down to human psychology, which is kind of the biggest flaw I see with the types of libertarians who believe that the culture war shouldn't matter to libertarians at all. It is often people who are philosophy-minded themselves, and they're making the mistake of psychologically projecting that mindset onto others. But the thing is, most people in this world do not think like that. And so here's some statistics and some studies that will give you some better insight into the psychology of your average person, to give you all a better understanding of what I'm alluding to here. Let's start with religion. Globally, close to 90% of the population will end up just staying in whatever religion they are raised in for pretty much their entire life. It varies slightly from religion to religion, and it can also vary slightly based on the economic status of the country.
Buddhism has the highest dropout rate that they're showing there. Interesting. Switch to another religion. Oh. That doesn't seem fair. The religiously unaffiliated switch to another religion. That's more like that would be more like disaffiliated, but still, that's That's actually That's actually crazy. 93% of people raised religiously unaffiliated, I guess, do never go to another religion, or at least according to this poll. That's kind of wild. I mean, you can see that Hindus and Muslims are higher, but still, that's kind of surprising. Yeah, 99% stayed in their religion. You wonder why? Yeah.
That the person is living in. But at the very least, even in the highest conditions,
You'd be interested in knowing if the stats here are based on adults 40 plus. It says 18 to 54, so it includes young people and people over 40 as well.
where people have access to free information, this statistic still remains above 50% for most religions. And some people might wonder, okay, why does that matter? Well, what it is, it's kind of the single most obvious proof that the average person really just adopts the ideology and the morality and the belief system of their peer group that they're raised in. They don't really question it, they just kind of go along with the ride. And the thing is, this mentality of the average person...
Okay, and I'm guessing he's going to get into this, but the point there is that they will go along with the dominant paradigm. If you change the culture they're in, they will switch with that. So that's the thing. They never get out of that place. Like if you're in a Muslim country where like everyone is a Muslim, and that's going to be your culture, and you're not going to question it. If you were to change that culture, for example, like we saw back when there was the Christian missionaries and stuff. Like if you could turn that region much more Christian, you would have more people switching over because you have changed the culture itself too. Just as an example.
Extends into more than just religion. There have been many, many studies on things like this, the development of moral values in cultural contexts. The TLDR of it is that a very sizable chunk of the population largely gets their morality and their sense of ethics in the cultural context of just kind of interacting with others and emulating others' points of views, and then ultimately just adopting the morality of their peer group. It's something that starts at an early age. It doesn't really come from a place of aggressively studying philosophy or anything. For most people, it's actually a very simple thing, and it starts very early in psychological development. This one can be hard to exactly measure because it's kind of a qualitative thing, and of course there's the thing of revealed preference versus stated preference. But when asked about it in the United States, only 7% of people say the media is not a factor in shaping moral values. Of course, depending on people's belief systems, they disagree on whether that's a good or a bad thing.
What are we defining as media here? The media? Like the press? Holy fuck. Dude, sometimes you read shit and you're just like what do you even do with that? "52% of the American adults say the media are an important factor in forming our moral values. An additional 12% say media are the most important factor. And only 7% say the media are not a factor in shaping moral values." I wonder what the other options are. It's got to be like not very important, like somewhat important or not very important or something. But only 7% say it's not a factor in shaping moral values at all. But yeah, 52% plus 12. That is crazy. Based YouTubers. Media, the priests of the non-theistic religion. Yes. People who adhere to traditional something or other are more likely to believe the media are... Wait, what? 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 That's surprising too. 73% of Orthodox think the media are influential. Oh. I want to see how this is phrased too, because are they saying like should be, or to the individual person, or or just that it has an effect. Because yeah, unfortunately, it does have an effect. Like, Americans believe the media exert powerful influence on the nation's moral values. Okay, that I misread. That's actually true then, unfortunately. All right. I thought it was from the personal perspective, but it's from the perspective of the nation, like of how it affects the nation. So unfortunately, again, that's actually just true. The media does exert powerful influence on the nation's moral values, 100%. All right, I was spinning out over nothing. Holy shit. That's still upsetting though.
At the very least, admit that we do get these things.
Media shouldn't be very important for shaping moral values, but it is. That's the point there.
In other words, culture has a very strong impact on how the average person views philosophy, because these are the same things that people discover through philosophy. What is correct? What is moral? What is true? And the reality is most people are not really interested in studying these things.
Again, I misread it though. Like it was saying that they thought media is impactful on shaping morals of the system, and that's just true.
Academic level. In other words, yes, the layman unironically kind of got their morality from watching Bambi. You can say that that's stupid, but it is how people think, which is then further proven by a lot of other things. For instance, the fact that there is a sizable chunk of the population that just wants to believe what the group believes. Combine that with things like cultivation theory in the media, which shows that people are more likely to believe that the rest of the world aligns with the messages,
make your own decisions, right?
That is being portrayed on images and TV shows, etc., etc. And it becomes very obvious just how much this can influence the mind of the normie. And here's the big kicker on top of it all. The interest a person has in going deeper into philosophy and studying things like ethics and natural law theory, for example, for libertarians, greatly differs by average IQ. And the thing is, we know by this point that at an individual level, this is largely genetic. In other words, Tyrone and Cletus are never going to become well-read philosophers. It's just not going to happen. They are going to get their philosophy from a combination of Saturday morning cartoons, Skibbity Toilet, and whatever their fourth grade
geez. Stats suggest most people are very bad at avoiding peer pressure. The protective urge to parrot is strong. Yes, that's very much true. But also, again, the stats there were just what people's opinions of if the media shapes things was, I believe. And again, they were actually right, like, because the media does shape moral. Whether or not that's good or not, it's not, is a different question, but the media does shape morals. Read books, y'all. Yes, I need to read more books.
Teacher had to say. And then when they grow up, this isn't really going to change. It's just going to become Netflix shows and whatever ideology is portrayed as popular within the area that they live in. That's just how it is with a lot of people. And you can complain about it. But
which again, and I know this is where that's going, but this is why it is important to not ignore culture. Like, culture is incredibly important, and probably one of the easiest things we can do as individuals is like those three. It was like culture, politics, and academia basically was the three he listed. It's much easier as individuals to do some of the things that, like the various memes we have going on in this community, like yeah and or nah I'd win. Those attitudes right there are in and of themselves changing culture. Like we don't have that same level of power in academia or politics. That requires a bit more effort, but we can easily shift, well, not easily, but we can more easily shift culture by making our voices heard and expanding that portion of culture so that more people find us. Similar to what we were talking about in the previous video too, of you build something, you attract the like-minded people, and you keep growing until you're attracting the normies too, because you have become appealing to the normies too as some sort of counterculture. So you can just build within culture much easier than you can build within politics or academia. And it's also less directly corrupting. Obviously, culture is corrupted, but it's not as organized corrupted. It's kind of similar to how we were saying that politics is downstream of culture. Culture is downstream of politics and academia. There's a bunch more pressure on culture, but it's less direct. It's less direct, so you have less corruption from the cultural aspect. If you're changing culture, you're less likely to, like, if you get into politics, you have to play the political game. You're more likely to get corrupted by the political system. If you get into academia, you're more likely to get corrupted by the corrupt academia system. If you get into culture, you're already doing your own thing. You're basically immune because you've already said no to all that shit. You don't have to play by the rules of culture because you're making your own. You can't make your own academia or politics. You can try to get involved in there, but then you are beholden to the system there as well.
You really can't fault people for it because, again, a lot of it is genetic. There was actually a very recent study that a lot of people were talking about on X about this. That was a genetic association study of human personality types, which showed that the big 5 personality traits, so openness to experience, neuroticism, conscientiousness, agreeableness, extroversion, those things have, to some degree, a genetic component. People are not the same. People are not equal. And really, it's just kind of obvious if you just look at a few basic things. For instance, one question...
Culture is downstream of art. I'd say culture and art are very closely related. I'm not sure I'd say one is downstream from the other. If anything, I'd say that art is downstream of culture. Again, they affect each other, and to some extent, they are linked. A culture is kind of art. And leftists can't meme. Yeah. They have other ways of spreading power, though. But yeah, so it's both.
You could ask yourself that could,
and again, by controlling culture, you control art too.
Is why isn't everybody Leonardo da Vinci? The average poor person in a first world country today, not just a middle class or upper middle class or rich person, the average poor individual in a first world country has greater economic access to resources and greater intellectual access to things like the library for basically free than Leonardo da Vinci did back when he was alive. And so why aren't all of these people becoming brilliant inventors? And the answer is because people are just innately different. And this just highlights the importance of studying psychology and studying its impact on how people think. If you only study philosophy and you only study economics, but you skip out on how people actually think, then you might actually fall for this high IQ projection scheme.
That's why they so strongly want to discredit AI art to maintain control of culture. Yes and no. Like, again, a bunch of them are just programmed. I'm not even sure they realize what we're doing. But yes, I think there are definitely people out there who are desperately trying to stop and discredit AI art. Because no, we've been talking about that. It's massive that it's letting other people get in on this and shape culture in that way.
On how people think. If you only study philosophy and you only study economics, but you skip out on how people actually think, then you might actually fall for this high IQ projection scheme. And I know because I used to be one of the libertarians that fell for it. I myself used to be one of the people who's like, oh, culture doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is truth. And that was projection. It's me assuming that, oh, this is what matters to me, therefore it must matter to others. And then I studied psychology and realized how wrong that was. And here's the big kicker. Marxists, neo-Marxists especially, understand this. They get it very well. A lot of times when they try to say, oh, you're being distracted by the culture war, or that the culture war was designed by the capitalists to prevent the proletariat from achieving class consciousness, they're actually...
You guess this is why certain people are so insistent white people or rural or American or whatever group don't have culture? Sort of, yes. It's a line of attack. If you can take that away, you make them lesser, and it's easier to destroy. Because culture is so important. If you can disassociate someone from culture, like if you say white people don't have culture long enough and get enough people to believe that, makes white people more vulnerable. And likewise with the other groups like rural and American, as you were saying. So yeah, if you can psyop people into thinking there's no culture there, they're less worthy of protection.
just tricking you
Yep.
into ignoring their subversive tactics. And so they know that worming their way into the media and injecting their ideology into, say, Saturday morning cartoons, while it may
Yep.
sound like a silly strategy, but the
Yep.
thing is, it's actually not, because it is genuinely one of the ways that people come to believe things.
Yep.
That is part of the reason why neo-Marxists control so many of our intellectual institutions these days. It is precisely because
Like we're
they
saying, why
walked
they
into
hate
these
AI
institutions
art and why
started
it's a
subverting
threat.
them from within, because they understand that subverting the media is an effective way to spread their ideology. And one of the ways that they get away with this subversion is by tricking people who are against their ideology into thinking that nothing is really going on.
You saw a video earlier today. It pointed out American culture, history, Hollywood hasn't produced it in decades. For example, there hasn't been a Daniel Boone movie since the 70s.
Hence why they viciously deny it when it's called out, even if the evidence against them is obvious. Or to summarize, as this post from X puts it, culture reflects attitudes and people as a whole. If you aren't talking about culture, you aren't looking at people. And the neo-Marxists and the far left and the communists,
Largely
they
true.
understand this. And they use culture to talk to the people, and then they try to trick you into thinking it doesn't matter, so that way you're not looking at people. You're just looking inward at your echo chamber, and are therefore a non-threat to their schemes. Getting the Rothbardian free marketeers to just sit in an echo chamber in some Discord somewhere is precisely what neo-Marxists want you to do. They want you to think that things like Gamergate don't matter. They want you to think that you are above the culture war, as it's called. Because by doing that, by tricking you into believing it doesn't matter, they thus remove you from...
I don't get how they can be tricked so easily, though, because, like, I mean, we've seen multiple cultural flashpoints and how impactful they've been. So, again, like we were talking about earlier, I don't really see how, in this day and age, anyone isn't at least willing to address the cultural issue.
The competition within these institutions, allowing them to retain complete control. And thus this allows them to get away with their tactic of using the mob to try and brute force random organizations to bending the knee to their cause. This is a big reason why my own channel, I tend to have my content go back and forth between libertarian theory, refuting random things, and culture issues. Or as I responded to some VTubers, Kirsche and Leaflet, about the woke mob trying to get companies to cater to their ideology, said, this is why I try to explain to other lolberts that culture matters. We need to hold these organizations financially accountable for hating us, or else we will never counteract the leftists who are constantly encouraging them to hate us.
This is what he say. The problem is, while people look at the freaks tweaking all over social media, the people just laugh at how absurd it is. But if you're a target of the mob, they're insanely damaging. Companies want to avoid that damage, and the only way to stop companies from caving is to show that the damage will be worse if the company capitulates to the mob. You're not wrong at this point. I'm willing to do things just out of spite to these companies. This is why I try to explain to other lolborts that culture matters. We need to hold these organizations financially accountable for hating us, or else we will never counteract the leftists who are constantly encouraging them to hate us. Correct. Maybe they are hoping doubling down will work because it did a few times in the recent past. They just don't have anything else. They have to keep going.
Neo-Marxists know that as long as they have the loudest voice on cultural issues, then that is what other organizations will adopt and reflect in their own policies. Because it's all interconnected. Another argument I see comes from these types themselves, the libertarians, who again believe they're above the culture war. And it's a bit of a kerfuffle, a bit of a mistaken argument. And it can be summarized by this post here. Why did the Trump camp share the Obama monkey video this
Wait,
week? Regardless if you...
did I just see this guy arguing with Kaufman? I gotta check that out. Give me a sec. I think this is a
It was racist.
retarded. I think this guy's whole profile is open borders libertarian. Let's see if I can find that. Is this it? Whoops. Frick. This is the post. It'd be funny. Please tell me that's the same guy. No. Nope. All right. Different stupid libertarian. But that guy says open borders libertarian is his whole profile there. Retard. But yeah, not the same guy. Would have been funny. But yeah, being libertarian.
hilarious, it's because when they fail on policy, they pivot to a culture war. And both sides do it because it's a uniparty, and predictable. And I can definitely see why a lot of people fall for this one, because it's mostly true. Yes, when a politician screws up and their policies don't do what they claim that they would do, or they pass policies that are the opposite of what they claimed they would pass when they were running for office, You know, kind of the old meme of, but I didn't vote for this, the voter says, lol, LMAO, said the politician. Because, of course, elected officials don't actually have to do what they're elected to do. But that's, of course, the democracy discussion, which is a different discussion altogether. The issue here is that this
Fake and
is
gay.
actually an example of an association fallacy, mixed a little bit with the fallacy of the indistributed middle. For instance, you may have heard the error all A are B and all C are B, therefore all A are C, which is incorrect. For instance, then you'd have to concede that all apples are fruits, all oranges are fruits, therefore all apples are oranges, which isn't actually true. Yes, it is true that liars and scammers are often politicians, and yes, it's true that politicians like to engage in distractions when their policies fail. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the distractions they use are inherently lies themselves. They're just trying to get the spotlight away from them as an individual. But that does not mean that where they've moved the spotlight to is somewhere that doesn't actually matter in the grand scheme of things. And I see a lot of people fall for this one because, again, it's also to some degree an association fallacy. It's very easy to associate the idea of culture war with dishonest politicians and then come to the conclusion that the entire discussion itself is just a big fat scam. But that's actually invalid reasoning. Culture absolutely matters, and that's why they like to turn the spotlight to culture. Because when a politician screws up, they can either distract people with a real issue or distract people with a fake issue. And as it turns out, distracting people with a real issue just so happens to have greater long-term effects and works for a lot longer because, again, it's a real issue. If politicians used fake issues as a distraction all the time, then, well, it wouldn't really be a very good distraction, would it? People would just immediately quickly realize that whatever they were talking about was nonsense, and then the spotlight would go right back to the politicians and their failures. And that's why politicians, again, use cultural issues as their favorite red herring. Red herrings are more effective when they are true. Another thing I've noticed is that the type of libertarians who believe that culture doesn't matter or that we're above the culture
Again, it's
war,
so depressing to even
blah,
hear
et
about
cetera,
this shit.
is that they're often the
'Cause
same
of course it does.
libertarians who reject Hans Hermann Hoppe. And it usually comes from a place of them misunderstanding Hoppe's work as works of pragmatism, thinking that Hoppe is just a prag whose goal is to subvert libertarianism into neo-Nazism, which is quite sad because the exact opposite is actually true. Libertarians getting involved in culture and finding that culture mattering to libertarians is actually an excellent strategy that avoids pragmatism, because it allows libertarianism to accomplish wins against the communists using physical removal, which is an entirely valid libertarian strategy. That is not pragmatic at all, and is in fact necessary for a liberty-based society to last more than one generation. That is what Hoppe's work actually proves. And it is actually the left pragmatists who dislike that.
Yep.
Because they don't like to be told that being a total degenerate wouldn't actually work in libertarian society in practice.
Correct.
But the reality is libertarian philosophy is a philosophy of essentially just property rights, and either abolishing or at the very least minimizing the non-productive class, aka the people who are privileged to be allowed to ignore other people's private property rights.
Yep.
And the thing is, tolerance is not a part of those rights. You are not required to tolerate someone on your property. If someone is being a dick to you and they're in your house, you should have the right to tell them to leave. You should have the right
Of
to
course.
engage in physical removal. That is part of what property rights are. That is not pragmatic at all. And people who are familiar with libertarian philosophy know that this is honestly kind of basic stuff. But here's the thing that the left libertarians don't like. You scale this simple concept up to that of society and multiple societies, and it becomes clear that cultural values, because they are again intrinsically tied to basically everything, well, they become a big deciding factor in the value of that society as a whole, as it directly affects its sustainability and ability to pass on the torch and survive for longer than a decade or so. For example, social welfare in a libertarian society would not be an entitlement statist-based program like our welfare system we have in many first world countries today in the West. Rather, it would become a privatized system. It would be a system based on, again, private property rights. And thus it makes financial sense to physically remove those who seek to mooch off of that welfare system, rather than as a temporary way to help get themselves out of trouble. And thus societies, by a simple process of natural selection, would end up adopting more low time preference cultural values, which tend to lean conservatives. We've actually seen this in history. If you look at the private welfare systems of the past before the New Deal, we see how they often had behavioral requirements in order to maintain or apply for membership. And those requirements ultimately tended to frown upon degenerate behavior. And it's really not that hard to understand why. I mean, just imagine yourself as the private owner of one such system. Looking at your finances, you notice that people who are hard drug abusers tend to be, well, net negatives, almost always finding themselves in distress and in need of assistance from the mutual aid fund, and they just keep screwing up over and over and over again. Thus, the incentive to require prospective members to, at the very least, submit to rehab and make a concentrated effort to overcome their addiction becomes the obvious answer to your problem, or just physically removing them altogether by banning drug abusers from joining the mutual aid fund. Because social welfare already is hard enough to take care of the people who fall ill to no fault of their own. And so why should you be taking a profit loss for the people who are the cause of their own problem? So it just makes
We were
sense.
talking about this earlier, and it's so incredibly blatant. It's ridiculous that we even have to have this conversation. Like, yeah. Remove.
In an actual free society to not be degenerate. It's just more profitable in the long run. And there's also just an inherent problem of hypocrisy of any left libertarian who takes issue with this and tries to reject Hoppe's work or downplay his importance. Here we have the Classical Liberal Caucus of Texas posting a long time ago, which by the way, don't hold them accountable for this because they're now under better leadership. But basically they posted this typical meme of basically saying Hoppe bad, thanking all these philosophers for their contributions to libertarian theory, but not Hoppe. To which I responded this: there's a much more direct question for libertarians who reject Hoppe. How exactly would you stop a private city society with right-wing values from forming without violating the NAP? The answer, hilariously, is that you must form a libertarian private society of your own and physically remove the Hoppians, which means you have become us. You have admitted that we are right. Are you going to physically remove yourselves next? Either that, or you create a state that bans any form of private cities from existing, in which case you have ceased to be libertarian. The reality is that society needs some kind of rule of law in order to function and facilitate economic growth. Libertarianism simply replaces that law with a system that is in line with voluntary association instead of by force through a non-productive class. This means there will still be rules. Libertarianism is not when no rules. And I'd like to add to this that also means that libertarianism is not when no culture. Libertarianism is when society and rule places the NAP first, which means that if people do not want to associate with crappy culture and don't want to associate with those who litter the streets, and a private society doesn't want to have people camping on the sidewalks while shooting up heroin, well then removing them.
And like I said, it doesn't even have to be fully libertarian. You can apply the same thinking to our current structure as well. We were talking about that in the other video as well. We are basically the shareholders here as taxpayers. We are the shareholders, and the politicians should be beholden to us and owe us to remove these bad elements from society too. Or, like, if not fully remove, at least not tolerate. At least not tolerate and support. Like, you just don't let people do this to our parks.
Is entirely within their rights
California.
within a libertarian society, and is in fact easier to do and more effective to do than how Western society and rules currently work today. Anybody who denies this and says that, oh well, that's authoritarian to kick these people out of your society, well then claim that the NAP itself is authoritarian, in which case the left libertarian has simply become a communist with extra steps. And so this just all brings us to the question, what should the libertarian strategy be in regards to culture then? And I believe the optimal strategy is actually just a two-pronged approach. The first is that we need to start actually fighting the Marxists where they are, as opposed to just constantly infighting. If you believe in liberty and believe in the free market, and you are in a position to influence one of these institutions, then you should do so. A lot of people who get into libertarian theory, especially the people who reject Hoppe, which again is often the libertarians who think that culture wars don't matter, it comes from the misunderstanding of, again, thinking that tolerance and acceptance is a libertarian value. And no, they're not. You do not have to leave culture alone.
We were talking about that earlier as well. Like, yeah, tolerating bad behavior is not good. Tolerance is the virtue of people who do not believe in anything.
You do not have to just accept the garbage propaganda that neo-Marxists are constantly churning out using their connections and positions within the media. If you are in a position where you can gain control of these and do something about it, then you should. It is entirely within libertarian values to do something like publishing a non-fiction book and having a story that reflects those values. It is, again, a very weird blindside that currently exists within libertarian strategy to just ignore the culture war, when it is in fact a fantastic way to talk to ordinary, normal, everyday people in a way that doesn't sound completely preachy. Because when you just come to someone, and if you were to walk up to someone on the street and just say, hey, do you want to talk about Rothbard's theories on the anatomy of the state? I mean, let's just be real for a moment. You're going to come across as a total autist. That is not
Yes.
how the average person comes to believe things.
You believe
It
in law
often
and
makes
order,
very
yeah.
little sense to me, because it's often also the people who are the anti-pragmatic, naptists, nap worshippers, those type of libertarians who look down on these cultural issues. And yet cultural issues are a libertarian strategy towards getting more libertarians that does not violate the nap. It is actually one of the most effective non-pragmatic strategies we have. And yet what I'll often see, for example, in my own channel, is I'll make a video calling out some journalists for some Marxist subversion, and yet one of these naptists will come in and go, oh, this is culture war schlop. Because apparently when I was not aware of it,
It's frustrating for people to claim lawfulness as tyranny. Being forced to deal with crappy people you didn't vote for is also a way to be tyrannized. Yes. And again, if you're basically, of course, laws can be tyrannical, but if your laws are being used to take your wealth from you and use it to support people who are harming you and your community and your society, that's definitely tyrannical. And if the laws are there to protect you and your community and your society, that is not tyranny.
not calling out neo-Marxist subversions of our media institutions and just doing nothing while the neo-Marxists continue to retain complete control and brainwash the next generation with their nonsense. Apparently, it just became an unspoken rule in libertarian circles that we're just going to let the neo-Marxists do that and not push back against it at all.
Again, because a bunch of these are
breaking
leftists.
one of my own rules here and engaging in some libertarian infighting with this video here, but it really needs to be called out and emphasized just how toxic this mentality is to the liberty movement as a whole. It's like they're addicted to losing or something. In other words, de-Marxist subversion of our cultural institutions is good, actually. It is completely within libertarian ethics and philosophy to do so. It does not violate the NAP in any way. It is basically free real estate and free libertarian strategy that the current Libertarian Party officials just kind of look at and look down on and just completely...
Well, again, because like we were talking about in the last video, the current Libertarian Party, Big L Libertarian leadership are a bunch of gay communists.
ignore. And that's ridiculous. It is untapped potential, and again, it just completely ignores how psychology works. The idea that everyone will just suddenly come to their senses and decide to be a philosopher and decide to aggressively study economics, and that everyone would do so if they just had the right environment, well, that mentality falls into the same fallacious thinking of the liberals who fell for the tabula rasa scam, believing that everybody is just a blank slate.
Go back to that. Am I planning to go through the Lego fiasco? I don't know. A bunch of people have already done it. They seem to be having a good time with it though. So maybe, I don't know. People seem to be enjoying that one. Could be fun. I don't know too much about it. I know the broad strokes, but yeah. So to answer your question, maybe. I don't have any direct plans, but like I said, people seem to be having fun with it. So might have to join in.
Do so if they just had the right environment. Well, that mentality falls into the same fallacious thinking of the liberals who fell for the tabula rasa scam, believing that everybody is just a blank slate, and if we all had the perfect environment, we would all be Einstein. And the evidence is kind of in. This is just not the case. It is not true. People are different, and many psychological traits are genetic. Libertarians need to accept this and move past this. The other prong of this strategy is just attacking the current culture issues from a libertarian perspective. And one very good angle of this is showing how a lot of the cultural decay is actually due to, again, the welfare state. Here's a really good article from Mises Wire, The Cultural Consequences of the Welfare State. The basic idea of it is just using the state to entitle people to the things that the mutual aid societies of the past used to do instead. Early systems in the 1800s being compulsory insurance for accident, health, disability, and age, pensions, and then called this state socialism. And again, these are things that people could already buy and join from private markets. And here's the thing, this state socialism was not done to make these programs more efficient, but rather it was done to generate dependence and loyalty. It certainly wasn't because it's more profitable to do things this way. In fact, quite the opposite.
And in some cases they wanted to get in on that themselves, and they might have already been involved in it. Like if they had interest in certain fields and these private organizations were doing it better and cheaper, the government is incentivized to crack down on that and mandate these that you be beholden to the government version of it, and that's going to do away with the private version because you're less likely to double up, and you can actually make the private version illegal too in some cases.
Ends up costing society way more in the long run. But the bigger problem is that it gets rid of the physical removal aspect, which would ordinarily allow the free market to weed out degeneracy. And here's the thing, this has been going on for so long that people have essentially forgotten about it. One of the key issues with libertarianism I see coming from kind of general bog standard conservatives is that they think that what we're seeing in our cultural degeneracy and decline in the West is due to woke capitalism, when in fact the exact opposite is true. It's because we got
Makes me sad to see how many churches are sending money away from their towns instead of caring for the people that they can see and know if the aid is actually working. Yes, there's a bunch of that. But yeah, and this is interesting too.
The West is due to woke capitalism, when in fact the exact opposite is true. It's because we got rid of the financial constraints on degeneracy and replaced them with entitlement, as the welfare state completely lacks the behavioral requirements that naturally show up in mutual aid societies of the past. And
I will say, if the government was actually trying to do a good job, you could do the same thing and not support degenerates, but they don't want to press the button.
So thus, crime rates, dependency, structural unemployment, parasitism, psychopathy, and hedonism have increased. And the article explains the reason. It's that for the public, government moderation has only disadvantages. When you receive a subsidy without any kind of quid pro quo, there is no incentive to be more productive in the future. As a result, productivity
on a lot of issues.
Long-term forecast decline, redistribution taxes the most productive individuals by removing their incentive to produce, leading to the infantilization and moral degeneration of civil society.
Yep.
And to add to this, the thing that
and a bunch of it was on purpose too. Like they know that. Like there are people in positions of power that want society to degrade for whatever reason.
a lot of people look at today is the question of public trust and the failure of multiculturalism, with the standard complaint being that Western society keeps getting flooded with immigrants, a lot of whom are strangely non-productive. And the reason why is because the welfare state kind of incentivizes them to come here without actually needing to be productive. And so now Western
aid elsewhere is good when possible, but a healthy balance matters. I'm not even sure how much we should be sending out anyway. Because again, these sorts of things spiral. Like if you have to pick zero or all, like go zero aid outside the country, or even out like community or whatever. No, you probably want some, but you have to draw probably national lines. Strangely not productive with that meme. Yeah. Oh man.
Civilization is finding itself in a position where the people who built the society and are funding that society, well, we find ourselves being forced to fund the welfare of our effective replacement. And because the welfare state is again an entitlement, it doesn't actually have any kind of behavioral or cultural or any kind of value requirement to it. And by value in this context, I mean social values, the need to be a civilized human being. Because these entitlement systems lack that, well, the situation we find ourselves in was inevitable. Or as the article points out, the welfare state
again, the whole damn concept of shipping in new people and putting them on welfare is completely against any sane system and any system we've had in the past. Like, we have no obligation to take them, and we shouldn't take them. They do not uplift our society, which is what's important to us and our government, because they represent us. And and then we don't let newcomers get on the welfare systems either.
Has led to the elimination of the responsibility to act decently, encouraging incivility, vandalism, and lawbreaking.
You owe those immigrants nothing, correct?
Step back and look at it from an outside-in perspective, it's kind of obvious. When you eliminate the need to be a decent person in order to have access to the social safety net of a society, then, well, surprise, surprise, people are going to come in and have no incentive to be decent people. And what libertarians need to do is we need to point out that these issues with cultural degeneracy, they're just going to keep happening so long as we have this entitlement system. Because a lot of conservatives, they'll just go down the rabbit hole of becoming a white nationalist or something in response to this. But
so why do the politicians do that? Import low grades and put them on our welfare systems? There's many reasons. For one thing, it lowers wages, so the corporations like it too. It raises housing value. There's all kinds of economic reasons, but more than that, there's a lot of power reasons. And I think we're talking legal immigration here, but even illegal immigration can be used in certain ways too, because illegal immigrants are counted on the census. So the more illegal immigrants you can pack into your state, even if you're not giving them driver's licenses and telling them they can vote, your state is going to get more powerful. So if and both sides do it, just to be clear. If you're a blue state like California, your electoral college representation is going to be massively skewed. You're a safe blue state, so you can pack as many people in there as you want, and it's just going to up your electoral college power. And yes, if you bring in legal immigrants and hook them on welfare, then the party that is saying that we have to take care of you is going to get your vote like 99% of the time. And the side that is saying that we shouldn't be doing this because it's bad for society will not be getting your vote. So basically, you're bringing people in and hooking them, and you're not going to be able to fight that because if they've been brought in semi-legally, they can vote. So you have a voting bloc that is completely against you. States get power funding via population, low wage, high housing, voting dynamics, dependency on the state. Yeah, Cali looks like it's turning though. Probably not this election, because people keep saying that, and then it still goes 67% or whatever it is, blue. So yeah, I don't think it's turning anytime soon. But yes, especially since a bunch of people are fleeing the state is the other thing too. Like the more Republican leaning, the more conservative leaning people are leaving, as are a lot of the more liberal leaning ones too, though, to be fair. But I think more of the conservatives are leaving, but I've not checked that specifically.
Then they'll want to keep the welfare state. They don't want to do anything about getting rid of the welfare. And they don't realize that if you have a welfare state with, say, white people only, so ethno-nationalist socialism, I mean, sure, that might be a little better than multicultural socialism, but it's still socialism and it's still entitlement, and so people will still lack the incentive to actually be decent human beings. And so you're really not fixing much unless you get rid of the entitlement. With the irony being that the welfare state actually hurts the poor because the welfare state makes society suck. And so when libertarians take a step away from this and just completely ignore the culture war, we're kind of giving Marxists a platform to sell their own solution. Their solution to cultural degeneracy, their answer to why the streets have so much trash.
See, Arkham, sleep well. I'm going to be heading out soon too.
Expensive. Why do we have all these homeless people? Well, the Marxists, they like to get their little claws on the media and sell the idea that this is all because of capitalism, which is a complete lie. It was all caused by state socialism. And yet the neo-Marxists are constantly creating stories within video games and within movies and TV shows and books, etc., and have fully ingrained themselves into intellectual institutions, and then they use the cultural decay that's largely caused by them as evidence of late-stage capitalism, selling the idea that it's the lack of equity and lack of free stuff and lack of entitlement that's causing all of these issues. And when libertarians, when we walk away from this, when we say that, oh, the culture wars are beneath us, well, we're just handing the neo-Marxists a free victory. We're not talking to the average person, to the average guy on the street, in a way that he will actually care to listen. We're just gonna let them say that the solution to all of our problems is more government intervention, more free stuff, more entitlements, more tolerance and acceptance of multiculturalism, more moral relativism, and other such nonsense. And in response to this, I will just point out to a simple fact, and I don't mean to brag here, but there's a reason why my channel broke the normal 100k subscriber libertarian curse. And it's
you worry NC will become blue. We've had so many people moving in here. Yeah, light is real and not a good thing.
It's really not a big secret. I just make content about some of the issues that everyday normal people are talking about and explain why the neo-Marxist solutions that are being offered are entirely fraudulent solutions. Because if you want to really spread the message of liberty and explain why the free market is a good thing, you gotta talk about issues that the average person actually cares about. It really is that simple. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And if you like my content, you can support me on Ko-Fi, Subscribestar, or by buying some merch, or again by checking out this video's sponsor, Private Internet Access. Thanks again for watching. That is all. Till next time.
That was fun and interesting. I haven't watched a whole lot of his stuff, but I've liked what I've seen. Oh, we'll have to check more out. And again, we'll probably call it there. Thank you for watching. Peace. All right, let me set up a raid here. And, oh yeah, he does some cool stuff. A lot to think about. Yeah, indeed, indeed. But yeah, let me go ahead, set up a raid, and then we'll call it a night. We'll be raiding Leaflet over on Rumble. That should be this. All right. Alrighty. Like I said, thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll be back tomorrow. I don't know. We have a big day. They flee from the States and they ruin and don't fix their or change their behavior. Yeah, it was well stated. When I say peace, you can't get that video out of your head now. That's pretty funny. Hey, Miscreant Mule, we're just heading off, so we'll be raiding here in a sec. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a good one. Peace. Let's see. Thanks for watching. All right, have a good one. Peace.
Heave away, me hearties, heave and never bend. For the right road's bloody narrow, and it never seems to end. Through storm and steel and centuries, he carried a righteous flame. Black-hearted Jack the Deathless, but the heart still feels the pain. He sailed when Rome still ruled the waves and Carthage burned to ash. Cut down tyrants by the score, left empires in the crash. No blade could keep him under, no grave could hold him long. He rose with every sunrise, still singing the same old song. Heave away, me hearties, heave and never bend. For the right road's bloody narrow, and it never seems to end. Through storm and steel and centuries, he carried a righteous flame. Black-hearted Jack the Deathless, but the heart still feels the pain.